Sandra all the time is here with a cold heart true. She's the ears and the eyes for me and you. Every day, everyone want to hear from Sandra. And every time on the air, she's getting better. Tell your sister, tell your brother, tell your mama. Call Sandra in the morning and in the evening. He always calling Sandra. And when they start fighting, they calling Sandra.
That's right, folks. Everyone is telling their mama about the cold hard truth. Welcome to another episode with more truth-telling, more problem-solving, and of course, more tea spilling than ever before. Sit back, students, grab your tea and turn up the volume because class is now in session. Call in at 936-2626 because your voice matters. Share your opinion on issues that matter the most to you.
Sandra all the time is here with a cold heart true. She's the ears and the eyes for me and you. Every day, everyone want to hear from Sandra. And every time on the air, she's getting better. Tell your sister, tell your brother, tell your mama. Call Sandra in the morning and in the evening. He always calling Sandra. And when they start fighting, they calling Sandra.
That's right, folks. Everyone is telling their mama about the cold hard truth. Welcome to another episode with more truth-telling, more problem-solving, and of course, more tea spilling than ever before. Sit back, students, grab your tea and turn up the volume because class is now in session. Call in at 936-2626 because your voice matters. Share your opinion on issues that matter the most to you.
Sandra all the time is here with a cold heart true. She's the ears and the eyes for me and you. Every day, everyone want to hear from Sandra. And every time on the air, she's getting better. Tell your sister, tell your brother, tell your mama. Call Sandra in the morning and in the evening. He always calling Sandra. And when they start fighting, they calling Sandra.
That's right, folks. Everyone is telling their mama about the cold hard truth. Welcome to another episode with more truth-telling, more problem-solving, and of course, more tea spilling than ever before. Sit back, students, grab your tea and turn up the volume because class is now in session. Call in at 936-2626 because your voice matters. Share your opinion on issues that matter the most to you. All right, good folks, rise and shine. Happy Tuesday. Wagwan. Hope everybody is having a fantastic week so far early in the week. How's the morning traffic? Those of you listening on radio, tell me now. How's it going? How's it out there? I'm glad that I don't have to be in it, but oh, how bad is it? Is it any worse than last year? I mean, there might be more drivers on the roadway. There might be more students out there. I don't know. But let me know, parents, how you guys are feeling. How are the kids feeling? Everybody okay? Did everybody go who won the planners? Did you guys go and pick up your planners? I hope so. Because remember now, other people wanted them. So don't sit back and let that resource go to waste. If you don't need it, do let me know. We can re-gift it to somebody else. Make sure you go pick that up, huh? So last week, and good morning to everyone. I'm going to actually send out the links here on WhatsApp. But last week, we were focusing and talking quite a bit about the school situation, particularly with SciFec. So I am going to, sorry, one second. I am going to put some information up here for the benefit of everyone. It was kind of disappointing, quite frankly, to see that SciFec obviously was not ready for the students. But I think that a lot of people don't even recognize that it wasn't just SciFec that wasn't ready, right? I mean, maybe the ministry can come up with some not so plausible explanation as to what was happening with SciFec. But the truth of the matter is, we would be giving them a pass, a considerable pass, if I also did not mention that other schools were ill prepared to start the new year. Now, this is important because it demonstrates that there seems to be some degree of disconnect between the ministry and, I dare say, DES, which is the Department of Education Services. I don't know exactly whose responsibility, and I did see a post some of you sent me last night where Miss Lynette Monteith was, I guess, claiming that it's not her fault. I said, okay, we're going to read that this morning to see exactly what she had to say, because I actually didn't read it. I just saw the preview. And so then the question becomes, as is typical in the civil service, everyone is happy to say, oh, it's not my fault. I'm not doing this. I'm not doing that. Well, whose fault is it? Whose responsibility is it if it's not yours? Because we can't continue to find this country in this position where things are going wrong and there is no degree of accountability, right? We are seeking to hold our elected officials accountable. We're seeking to hold the civil servants accountable. We're seeking to hold parents accountable. Because without all of those three components working in tandem with each other, what hope do we really have for fixing our educational system? No one entity, if you will, can fix it. So the minister can't fix it by herself. She plays an integral part in terms of being the policy, setting policy directive, allocating a sufficient budget and not overspending and being wasteful on things that don't make any sense. The civil servants should be understanding what it is that she wishes to accomplish during her tenure, and then help her to achieve those things, given their expert, as we call it, subject matter expertise. And I'm sorry to say, but by all accounts, that doesn't seem to be happening. Then the department, separate from the ministry, I think a lot of us don't even know what is it that the department actually does. What is their functional role within this whole situation. They take directions from the ministry and then they execute those at a lower level. Is that what the Department of Education Services does? Do anybody, does anyone have that information? How many of you feel like if we were quizzing you this morning on the Department of Education Services, that you would actually be able to tell me what they do, what's the difference between them and the ministry, and what their role is? Well, they're akin to, say, for example, not every ministry has this set up, but take, for example, the Ministry of Tourism. It's tourism and transport still falls under him, right? Or do they move it? I can't even remember. They kept changing things up. Tourism and transport, I think, still go together. So, or did they move that under J? I honestly can't remember. I know they shifted some stuff under J, and I felt like they was it transportation? So what is it that they do? So according to their website, they are the operational arm for government schools. Okay. What does that mean? Well, operational means that they are responsible, I would think, for the day-to-day operations. Okay. They said that the ministry provides strategic and policy direction for government schools, and then DES is responsible for providing the resources and support to schools to implement the various policies and procedures. Okay. They claim that, it's a small jurisdiction and they have overall responsibility for the provision of public education in the Cayman Islands. They operate learning facilities in all 3 islands, 10 primary schools, 3 secondary schools, 1 further education center, 1 special school, and the education service provision in Little Cayman. So they have a whole section here on their website about exactly what their remit is and, what they're ultimately responsible for. I can tell you that on the face of it, based on what I see here, if I had to say, right, who's responsible for the failures at SciFec, this is where I'd be pointing the finger at the Department of Education Services. And I understand Mr. Mark Ray is the director of that. I don't really know him. You know who he looks like? Not for nothing, but I'm here looking at his picture on the website. He actually looks like, what's that black guy, the African-American guy who is a, excuse me for using the term black, it's probably not politically correct in America, but Tyler Perry. Doesn't he look a little bit like Tyler Perry? Like if you wake up in a fuzzy moment, you'd think you're looking at Tyler Perry. Look at him. Very, very similar features. Yeah, interesting. Anyway, this is their website. This is what they say that they are responsible for. Administering the provision of student support services, which includes a wide variety of challenges faced by students, like occupational therapy services, speech and language, educational psychology services, administering the special needs code of practice, which supports students with learning challenges, the early intervention program. So all of these things fall under them, a comprehensive inclusion program that supports children with emotional and behavioral challenges, maintaining the transportation, of nearly 4,000 students on a daily basis, maintaining facilities which are occupied on a daily basis by more than 5,500 people, providing centralized services to schools, including managing tenders for services and equipment, applications for homeschooling. They monitor and approve those. Processing and managing teachers' license for approval by the Education Council. Provision of testing services to support schools and the wider community through both internal and external examination and assessments, and an extensive database management and analysis services to support schools, inform DES and ministry decisions, and enable the Cayman Islands to comply with national and international reporting requirements. That's just, sort of the main area. Then they talk about like strategic management, all the laws that govern them, as well as finance and administration, school fees, exam fees, and so on, policies and procedure, decisions and recommendations, and there you have it, right? So it does seem to me, and I am open to, obviously being told differently for sure, that the Department of Education Services is the one who carries the burden for the day-to-day management and operations of our learning institutions, or government-operated learning institutions here in the Cayman Islands. So what happened? Why was SciFec not ready, and now our students have to be split between multiple locations, because that kind of was the final decision? What happened? Clifton Hunter. So I said, it would be one thing if I was just talking about SciFec, but Clifton Hunter also has some major issues, overcrowding, just like John Gray. And on top of it, they were supposed to have 3 new classrooms ready for this year, and that didn't happen. Okay. So why didn't that happen? Again, Clifton Hunter has unfortunately run out of space already. And they were going to enclose several balconies, I understand, 3 balconies, to make those specific areas into additional classroom space. That was the plan. And guess what? That didn't happen. It's interesting that Clifton Hunter doesn't even have proper places for your children, like a proper cafeteria for the students to sit down and eat. I'm told that they need another academy building. The 3 new rooms that were supposed to have been built on the balcony of each academy during the summer didn't get done. It's like, how is this possible? So I have people telling me that there is a capacity crisis at Clifton Hunter High School. John Gray also has that. And I have to think to myself, as someone who's done a little bit of reading on this topic, how do we get better results from our students? How do we provide the best possible education for children? We're spending money on all sorts of stuff. But the one thing I can tell you that has stood out over the years in terms of being a marker of how successful a student will be in a school, in a classroom setting, is the teacher to student ratio. The smaller the teacher to student ratio is, the better results you will have, and the more your children will benefit from those types of institutions and organizations. So in other words, when you have overcrowding and you have 20-something, 30 kids in a classroom, 1 teacher, an assistant teacher if you're lucky, that is a recipe for ultimate disaster. And unfortunately, our government schools are busting at the seams, and we need to figure this out. So I'm surprised at something like that, knowing that you have no proper cafeteria. You have, capacity issues from last year. And then I understand because that part of the island continues to grow, as well as apparently a lot of parents are transferring their kids to Clifton Hunter when they probably should not even be in that zone. This is leading to some real serious overcrowding. And government is hiring all these teachers, which, by the way, last week school started and they were still interviewing and advertising for teachers. So this just demonstrates that nobody was ready. The ministry obviously isn't holding the Department of Education Services their feet to the fire. The minister isn't holding the ministry and their feet to the fire. So the whole thing is going to hell in a handbasket. Please, we need to really get a hold of the situation here. So it's unfortunate because what is all this stuff, all this conundrum and mixed up and confusion and not enough space, no cafeteria, and that student to teacher ratio being too high. It means that your children, let me say our children, are the ones who are going to suffer. Our children are the ones who ultimately will not get the best possible education, and that sets the foundation for the rest of their lives. And it seems to me that parents are at a loss of what it is that they need to do. Why aren't you guys protesting? I mean, it's shocking to me what Caymanians believe is important and what you guys want to go to bat for, what you want to protest for. But, in recent times, and when I say recent times, I mean my entire life, I have never heard of Caymanians protesting for anything in relation to their children's education, well-being, and safety. Now, I need some of you to please step up to the plate. 936-2626 is the telephone number, and explain to me, how is it that is even possible? I hear you guys complaining all the time. I've got friends with children in, elementary school even. They're complaining. Oh my gosh, Sandy, this school is a mess. This, that, and the next thing. I'm like, okay, what are you going to do about it? It's fine to message me and it's fine to complain. But what are you going to do about it? What are you really going to do about it? When are you parents going to pick up a placard and say, you know what? My child matters. Our children matter. And we've had enough. And so we're going to get out there and really demonstrate to the minister and everybody else that we're willing to go to bat for children. We're willing to fight for children. I mean, I don't see y'all doing it. Y'all scared. Oh, but Sandy, I'm a civil servant, or this one's a civil servant. So that's how they keep you quiet, is they hire all of you into the civil service? I mean, what kind of formula for disaster is that? Remember last week or week before, Hunter and his group were out there protesting, and some of you sent me some pictures and stuff of the placard that they had. They had about 8 different issues listed, everything under the sun. In fact, they were probably protesting the sun itself. But the one thing I noticed as an interesting observation, there was zero, and I do mean zero, zero indication or listing or concern about the education of our children. Why is that? At what point do our children become a priority in this country? Everything relating to children is like an afterthought. right? Oh, yeah. Okay. We'll get to them. We'll think about them later. Their well being and safety. Look at how long it took the children's legislation to be put in place. I mean, it sat on the books forever. I remember back in those days reading about it and thinking to myself, I, was just shocked at the fact that it just wasn't a priority for our elected officials to get to that final stage where they were willing to pass legislation to help protect some of our children. Because some of the stuff, you guys might have missed this memo, but for many, many years, I have been supportive of and done a petition, the whole 9 yards, of having a sex offenders registry. And I know that that has been sort of the focus. But in that petition, there were a number of different things. It wasn't just the sex offenders registry, because that's not enough to protect your children. Because let me be very, very clear to you all. A sex offenders registry is only useful after the fact. And I would never advocate that as a complete solution to anything. Let me tell you, protecting your children is where the most effort has to go into the situation, because once they become victims, they're victims. Okay? And nobody wants that to happen. So I've always said we need to get on the front end of this. And so there was a bit in there about increasing programs and budgeting for victims so that you can help them cope, and also reduce the rate of recidivism, because there is an understanding amongst the professionals that once someone has fallen victim to child sexual abuse, they themselves become very, very high risk for becoming the very abuser that they became prey to. And this is why you see a lot of teenage children, acting out, and a good portion of them are actually, predators in training, so to speak. And if you don't get them the therapy that they need immediately, they then become adult predators. And by then, it's oftentimes a little bit too late. So there was an element of that petition that talked about mandatory reporting. You can go look at the petition even now, it's still up. And so I was happy to see that the Children's Act adopted that element of that petition and would have made mandatory reporting a requirement. But look at how long the Children's Act and legislation took to come into place. I think, if my memory, I'm just having a quick look, if my memory serves me correctly on this, it might have been sitting there. I don't want to say 10 years, but it was a very long time. And there was no real explanation for it. So back in 2012, the law came into effect and it was amended. The initial bill was passed back in 2009. What is that? 9, 10, 11, 12. Okay. Still, that is a woefully long time. Why did it take all that time? We have seen things come drafted, bill, boom, out in the matter of like no time flat. But a piece of legislation surrounding your children literally took years. And that's unfortunate. However, in there included mandatory reporting. And you see, when you sit back and you wait on legislation to come into effect, in 3 years, how many children might have been abused? And, mandatory reporting was not required by law. So anyone that works with your children, healthcare professionals, teachers, police officers, ministers of religion, childcare providers, public servants that work with children, they're required by law to report their concerns, as well as probation officers, church workers, school employees, and counselors. And we see it all the time. Just the case the other day with that child, the 13-year-old. with this guy and the mother sitting there defending his foolishness. That came about because that child confided in a school counselor. Had she not confided in a school counselor, I can tell you that that abuse would probably still be ongoing now, because clearly the mother didn't give a darn. She wasn't concerned about her own child. So we can't sit on protective legislation like this. This is designed to protect your children. Who in their good sense would sit for 3 years and not implement that? Why was that not a priority? But this is the point that I'm trying to make, is there seems to be this sort of overarching like lack of consideration for anything as it relates to our children. And in the community, we seem to be very accepting of that approach. Do you guys remember on one of my Cayman Voices series, I was speaking to, I want to say it must have been Uncle Rennie, and he was talking about something. It was either him or his seniors group that gets together the first Saturday of every month, because they were talking about how a child in Georgetown had fallen down a well or something. You guys might have to refresh my memory of the details here, but the child had fallen down a well. And as a result of that, those parents in Georgetown, considered just poor Black Caymanians, not merchant class, not business owners, nobody, they decided to protest because they were saying that we need a proper facility for our children. So there was some sort of sinkhole or something, some kind of well or something, and a child fell down the well. So lo and behold, that is how the push or the initiative came about for a proper school facility, like proper school grounds, Georgetown Primary, and so on. Now, the details are a little bit sketchy, so again, forgive me if I've gotten any of those wrong. And this was quite some time ago. I mean, this is before my days for sure. But the fact that parents back then could take to the streets and protest on behalf of their children having proper facilities, and here we are in this day and age with the most, when it comes to the most resources, we're a much, wealthier country. We're not under anybody else administratively. We can make a lot of our own decisions. We can prioritize our budget and so on. And this is the time now that we least prioritize our children. It's not a good look. And in a highly competitive environment, right? Where people can just sit back and get degrees now on the internet, where people can learn stuff like boom, boom, boom. Here we are not prioritizing the education of our children, not at all. And in order for our children to learn, you have to admit that they have to be in an environment that's conducive to learning. Overcrowding, too many kids in the classroom, teachers having to deal with the behavioral issues of some of those children, the whole situation, they're less likely to be able to do any of that efficiently with the sheer numbers that they have. So Clifton Hunter, I got complaints last year about a number of things in relation to Clifton Hunter. Again, the Department of Education Services didn't move on any of those. We're talking about the mold. Both students and teachers were out sick consistently, right, because of mold exposure. The carpet was in a disgusting state. It was just, AC constantly broken, the whole 9 yards. So I was a bit surprised. And of course, they eventually pulled out the carpet, put the tile in. Seemed to have happened in record time once we brought it to the public's attention. And then last week, Wednesday, I'm going to show you guys what I received because I'm thinking to myself, how difficult is it to fix these things? You see, none of this stuff is difficult to do. This just becomes a matter of priority, I'm not in the construction industry, thank God. I would never want to be in that industry. But I can tell you that once you have the resources, the financial resources to get stuff done, you can find people to put down tile. God knows we got enough people standing up on Eastern Avenue with nothing to do. Enough permits here taken out for masons and carpentry people and whatever, and they don't actually have any work for them. So look at what this parent sent in to me that made me shake my head. Just know that the AC nor the flooring, where the carpet was ripped out at CHHS, were fixed or replaced. Shaking my head. So the students are back in heat in some areas of the school. DES had the whole of 8 weeks to get it sorted out. They had summer school at the school and no one came in to do any form of repairs. This was last week, Wednesday and Thursday. They were saying how the school's overpopulated. Their boys attend, so they would know. Wow. 8 weeks, if you plan ahead, is sufficient time to get a lot of stuff done. Now, I don't know how summer school works, but is summer school taking up the entire school campus where you could not have prioritized the areas? So let's try to understand what happened last year when we were kicking up a fuss about the school. All they did was go and rip out the carpet. They didn't lay the tile. I mean, what? Huh? Come on now. So what's down there now? It's just the bare, like the concrete floor? Wow. For one person, Tosh on Instagram says they think about themselves first as adults and then the children later on when it is too late. I've received complaints about the air conditioning from more than one parent since last week. And I was told by people within the school, the administrators essentially, that the air conditioning was fixed and that they were simply waiting, if you will, for a permanent fix. And I'm thinking to myself, what do you mean it was fixed? It's either fixed or it ain't fixed. Well, lo and behold, the short answer is it's not fixed. Broken again. See people messaging me right now. Okay. This person says, yes, we can't speak out because we're all government workers. Y'all better find a way. And I don't see why you can't protest for your children. That's not a political protest. I think that there's a very narrow application of what you can and what you can't do as a civil servant. And nobody ever, and this is where I'm going to challenge the deputy governor, he should be clarifying as civil servants what you have the right to do. Because all of you live in fear that you can't speak out on anything. I think that it has been clarified before that you're not able to sign petitions. I think you can sign petitions, but you couldn't attend political meetings and sort of rally or show your outward support for any one political candidate. But I don't think that means that as a civil servant, your tongue is tied for life, because God knows it's a lifetime appointment, and you are never in a position to speak on issues that matter to you as a citizen of this country. And, if that is the case, then clearly that needs some revision, but I don't think it's the case. I think where, there's this sort of low-key messaging out there that, we can't say anything, we can't do anything, when in fact, you can if you're really motivated to do so. And exactly, Magdalene, I was just thinking this. What are they going to do if you all collectively get out there and protest on behalf of your children? They're going to fire every one of you? I don't think so. Somebody, one civil servant, I don't know who it is, but y'all listening to me this morning, one civil servant needs to find the gonads, the testicular fortitude to get up and protest on behalf of your child, and then dare the government to say anything to you or to fire you. Take a vacation day so that they don't have an excuse. They can't say, oh, you didn't call into work or whatever. Take a vacation day because you're able to do what you want with your vacation day and protest for your children. And then I would want to see the civil servants, anybody in the civil service, say something to you about it. That's the only way that anything in this country is going to get done. The civil service is the largest employer. We can't have all of you feeling like you're silenced and you can't say anything, you can't do anything. It's your children, it's your child. You think that if I were civil servant and my child was in Clifton Hunter, John Gray, and all these issues were happening, that I'm going to sit back and not have anything to say? Y'all would have to fire me. And we would mount a legal challenge, a judicial review, because you have no grounds on which to do so. One or two people speaking out makes it look like, yeah, this is not a big issue. Right? Now, I noticed with interest that Miss Monteith has put up this statement yesterday concerning her hiring practices. And of course, we know that's going to be a denial video. We'll watch it here in a second. That's all fine and dandy, but tell me something. How long have, these discussions about the hiring practices been going on? And only now she addresses it because CMR mentioned it last week. You know what that means to me? Again, you guys are behind closed doors having these discussions. And if she's an oblivious person, she very well may be, I don't know. But if she's an oblivious person, she didn't even know that y'all have been complaining for years about the overwhelming number of one particular church denomination that is in our schools. There's no way that she could not know. Let me put it that way. I'm the messenger, but this message is kind of an old message by now. Y'all been talking about this for a minute. So we're going to listen to what she has to say. Of course, like I said, we're going to expect her to not deny it. But the mere fact that it has been brought up as many times that it has been means that it is something that she should have addressed a very long time ago. Good morning, caller.
Good morning, Sandra.
Morning, dear.
We know the causative factors here. We know that what we're looking at are symptomatic effects, but we still continue to ignore the underlying root cause problems. We have a lack of accountability. We have a lack of accountability from the top down. Mm-hmm. We have evidence of self-interested corruption between very insular groups of people. You just spoke to that. Mm. We have dereliction of duty in being evidenced time and time and time again. Mm-hmm. We have the reality because the education system's issues we have here in Cayman are part and parcel of a lack of infrastructure issue that we have here in Cayman, specifically because we have people in power and influence who don't care about anything other than their own greed. So let's pack Cayman with as many people as possible. That is the words from the Chamber of Commerce. That is the words from politicians. We have Mr. Kenneth Bryan speaking of bringing up our population here to 250 or whatever insane number is being talked about. Yet still, we're sitting here today talking about children who can't get their lunch in a cafeteria at a government-run high school. We're talking about children being shuffled all over the place because we have a government who, civil service and the elected people, ministry people, who are guilty of dereliction of duty.
Mm-hmm.
But they're not going to be held accountable. They have their own little cabals, whether it be their own little nationalistic cabals, whether it be religious cabals, whether it be any of these reasons, but the one overriding factor is there's no accountability. Mm-hmm. And how is a member of the electorate supposed to hold the same minister of education? How many times has the woman been in charge now? Who in Cayman, Grand Cayman, is able to even vote against her being given opportunity again? Nobody in Grand Cayman. Mm-hmm. It's all up to a couple hundred people to make that decision. That is wrong. We need a national election for all people here, because it is the only way to begin to start to demand accountability from the electoral process as a starting point. But we need to go further and deeper into that. We need to start introducing checks and balances into Cayman's political and administrational processes where people who fail are held accountable. Because if we're going to think that we're going to leave them to hold themselves accountable, then it's just ludicrous. It's insane. It's not going to happen.
Thank you, Jonathan.
All right.
So let me ask yourself, Jonathan is saying the only solution to removing someone is a national election. I don't believe that. Surely Cayman Brackers can look and see how little they have benefited in the past 30 years. You know, I find it ironic that people in the BRAC, even as it relates to this school situation, when it came out, they're like, but Sandy, we need nothing, you know, we haven't gotten anything. And I said, and whose fault is that? She's been there for almost 30 years. And y'all are complaining that you've been put on the back burner and that you haven't gotten anything, and yet you continue to elect her. Now she's supposed to be retiring, and instead of retiring, she's come up with this grand scheme to waste $50 million to put the entire country in debt to try to continue to fool the people of Cayman Brac. The people of Cayman Brac are some of the smartest people in this country. Y'all have proven that, in part, thanks to your very small classroom sizes. Your children can sit down comfortably and learn. Y'all do know that is one of the reasons why Cayman Brac has such excellent results. It's sheer numbers. When you got 5 people in a graduating class, you know, that teacher can give a lot of attention to those 5 children. So you guys have, by comparison, really excellent results compared to somebody else. And she's going to come in and tell you, oh, no. What we need is a $50 million school to fix it. To fix what? What is the issue in Cayman Brac that justifies a $50 million school? That is why she cannot show us the business case, because there's no way under good God's sun that the business case supports it. If it was in support of what she was doing, she would have shared that a long time ago. And she's been there for almost 30 years. So when Cayman Brackers complain that they don't have opportunities, they don't have this, they don't have that, I say, look at your elected representatives. How long has Moses Kirkernel been there? Probably not much less than that. Let me see. Caller, good morning.
Morning.
How are you?
I just have one question for our elected officials. If our schools are up to par, and they're excellent schools, and there's nothing wrong with our schools or our public school system, why is it that 0 of them send their children to public school? If the public school is not good enough for their kids, why is it good enough for our kids? That's my only question. I think I know of one politician that had their child in a public school. one.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, caller.
And I took very high offense to when last term when you were talking about the AC at Kristen Hunter, when Kenneth Bryant could sit on the radio and say, well, maybe they need to sit in the heat. Would he allow that for his daughters? I had a lot of respect for him, but that respect has faded because you have a different standard for yourself than what you have for the people. And that's if the school not good enough for your children, it's not good enough for mine either. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's a good question. And I think that, that was a very poor statement. And I don't know how much thought he gave that statement when he said it, but I must tell you that at the very minimum, our children, I mean, things are different. You guys talking about, well, I remember when I used to sit in a schoolyard Sunday and I never had no paper and I had to go and get the paper off the bark of the tree and I had to sharpen the pencil with my own teeth. Those are different times, honey child. And I'm not saying y'all had it easy, but our children have not really, been exposed to that kind of rough and tough life. So, excuse me. And the heat is kind of different these days, thanks to global warming and everything else, the concrete jungles that we all live in. And most importantly, the schools are not designed to operate without AC. The windows don't even open, so don't sit back and tell our children that they have to sit in a classroom with no air conditioning and they should get used to it. The old school houses had all the doors open, all the windows open. The air was able to flow quite freely. Good morning, caller. Hello.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Jonathan says that we need to put in systems of accountability. If I'm not mistaken, I think you were spelling out all morning what accountability really means. And it's not going to be an office where you put another civil servant who's also afraid of the government to hold the government accountable. It's us. It's when we stand up, when we have the information that we need to understand the issues, and we have the courage to hold our officials accountable. That is the day they will be held accountable, and at no other time will they be.
Thank you.
When you say, well, why are you not protesting? You're talking about the lack of courage to stand up for the obvious. Take care.
Appreciate it. Good morning, caller.
Good morning, Sandra, Minister Brian. How are you doing?
Morning, Minister.
I was just listening to your program on my way to the conference this morning, and I was overheard a comment by a lovely young lady about my viewpoint on our public school kids and as opposed to private school kids. And I'm not sure if many of my comments have been misunderstood over time. There's a high possibility of that, and I want to ensure the public knows that by no means I think that kids in public school should be any different than the kids in private school. So if I left a false impression on the caller, then I do apologize. I think the context of that conversation when calling your show was that the AC was out and we were talking about the difficulty for kids going to school and the conditions. And then I referenced to, our forefathers went through some difficult times and they were able to get through those difficult times and difficult conditions and be able to learn all the same. So if that was left with the interpretation that I think kids in public school should be sitting in heat, then I apologize, but that's definitely not what I said. I don't, matter of fact, no child should be in difficult circumstances. I don't care whether they're in private or public. I grew up in a public school and I came out just fine. But we have to continue to improve our school systems, of course. But I definitely don't want anybody thinking that private schools should be given any better preference than the government schools. Matter of fact, government spends a large amount of money in the school system. Some people say even not effective enough in respect to delivering the educational services. But we care about every child in this country in respect to education, regardless. And if I led the country to believe, or led this lovely person who called in to show that, I heard her say she had a lot of respect for me, and I appreciate that. And I would encourage her to still have that, because by no means I would ever want a public school child, no child for that fact.
Well, can I ask you a few questions, Minister?
Yeah, of course. I'm never shy away from those things. Yes. This is my job.
About why, I mean, you're part of this UPM government. I know this doesn't fall under your direct responsibility, but as cabinet, you've said this before, that you guys have collective responsibility for things that are being done.
Correct.
Why is it that the ministry did not ensure that the schools were properly ready for this year? You know, CIFEC being aside, because you can argue some things there, although the minister herself didn't even do a site visit to CIFEC until last week when everybody found out that facility is not ready. Clifton Hunter isn't ready, right? 3 new classrooms were supposed to come online during the summer. That hasn't happened. Carpet was ripped up. New tile hasn't been put down. Work in air conditioning. I mean, if this government is really committed and cares about our children, it doesn't look that way. And the results of what is happening looks like there are some major issues in our school system. How can we expect our children to have any degree of significant improvements, right, in their educational experience, and our teachers to have the resources that they need when there's overcrowding, there's no lunchroom space, there's all of these issues? Tell me how this cabinet has demonstrated collectively, again, collective responsibility, that it cares about the well-being of our children.
Well, I mean, we've shown a number of ways from funding and support for the continued growth of education. But I think what we're talking about is the preparation for the school year. And the simple answer is none of the government members are satisfied with what the technical support team was supposed to do to get the school ready. I can tell you the Premier is not happy at all. But obviously, the leader of the country is not going to come out and say, "Oh, you civil servants failed." I mean,
why not?
Well, because that's not what a leader does, right?
Really?
I mean,
a leader doesn't hold people accountable?
No, I'm not saying the leader. That's not what I said.
Well, that's when somebody is failing, and you can't be honest with them and tell them that they're not meeting your standards and that they're failing. But you could do that, but not necessarily in a public forum. So you don't know what is being said behind closed doors. And sometimes I don't want to be seen to be undermining the Premier. I can't tell you why the minister herself was not wherever you're saying that she wasn't. But I can tell you the government is not satisfied. This is the worst thing that we are dealing with right now, which is the lack of being prepared for the fundamental duty of preparing the next generation. So we are not happy. Right? So can I say this? Right?
Yeah, 1 second, Stan. Please go ahead. Let me just finish the thought process. Sure. So the public that is listening can understand where we are, right? I'm the Minister of Tourism, but I also represent every member in this country, and I'm part of the cabinet. So I know regardless if I'm the minister or not, people are going to hold me accountable. I've had constituents call me saying, "Kenneth, I am mad, I'm upset. You know, what is going on with the education system?" And I have to ask the questions too. And I'm not happy with what the education department is doing right now. I'm happy to say that publicly. I don't expect all members to be the same, but we failed on this. And besides the contractual parts where I don't think that we had control over, but there should have been enough time to see this. We were preparing for CIFEC for a while. So, but you got to remember the government members are policymakers, and we depend on technocrats and civil servants to deliver. Now, I'm not here to throw under the bus all civil servants, but there are some civil servants who failed in this. And I'm not in charge of the ministry to identify them, and neither do I think that the leader of the country is going to probably do that, because that's not what leaders do. They deal with it on the inside, right? So I know that the Premier has met with the Deputy Governor and expressed her severe dissatisfaction with what has happened. That's separate from the contractual agreement with the contractors to have the place ready for SciFec. So now, can something unforeseen happen? Of course, that happens almost every day in the world. But we could have still been prepared with other options. Why we were waiting to find a different option 1 week beforehand is beyond me. And I know it's not the Premier as Minister of Education fault why that didn't happen. She depends. This is what you always hear politicians say. I've been reliably informed, because we depend on our support team to deliver what's happening with the school. Are we ready? Is this ready to go? Are the teachers, do you have enough teachers? So we be informed about the information, and then we come out and say, yes, my team has told me we're ready for the school year and everything's going to be fine. But if it shows up that it's not, of course, we're expected to hold people accountable. But the staffing has come out on the local radio and Radio Cayman, and I encourage them to go back to last week, Friday's show, where they were on Radio Cayman. I know they didn't come on to your show. I don't want to get into the politics of that, but they have expressed reasoning for why these things have failed. And first of all, go back to YouTube on For the Record Friday last week. You may get some of the answers. Whether those answers are justified or not, I think the people have a right to examine that, to say, am I satisfied with that answer or not?
So let me ask you a question.
But I can say that the minister is definitely holding them accountable on the inside. Go ahead.
So if she, let me in my mind, right? Because you can then help clarify this for me. And I do see other callers calling. The minister's calling on WhatsApp, so we can't join anybody else. And I actually want to give him an opportunity to speak freely, right? So if you say that the Premier is upset and, she's not pleased, let's put it that way, with what is happening. I'm confused by that statement, because I don't see that being demonstrated anywhere. Now, by contrast, last week, she demonstrated her position as it relates to the credit union, and in my opinion, threw one of her own ministers under the bus to say, oh, we don't support this initiative of charging the credit union this annual fee of $200,000. That is in relation to financial institution. I don't have any problems with that. I'm in support of that. But how can she find the energy to criticize another minister about that, but doesn't, and made her displeasure be known about, oh, the credit union is going to be, once the heat started to get turned up on the stove, she expressed her opinions about that, but have not been in a position to express her opinions about the failing of education for the past 8 years that she's been in?
I can't comment on that, because that's one personal decision for her as an individual, as the minister, and as
but
the
she's
premier.
the leader of this country, so it's not a personal decision.
No. What I mean is, why she hasn't done it is the only person who can answer that is her.
Right.
My point is that I'm answering you as to me, and I'm answering you on what I believe that we should be talking about. And I do agree that there was a major failing on behalf of the education system. I'm not happy. So I want Cayman to know that. And the education officials on the inside know that I'm not happy. I'm not only not happy about the preparedness for this year, but about a lot of other things that are happening.
Okay, can I stick a pin right there?
Primary school. Well, if you ask the question to answer, I was trying to finish it up.
Yeah, make it.
Okay. All right, Sandra.
Yes.
Thank you so much. I just wanted to clarify.
Yeah.
No, but
hold on. I don't want you to go yet, though. I still, it's not that I want you to go. I just want to clarify something. So you've now expressed, I understand that you're not in a position to speak for her. That's fine. You've now expressed that you likewise are not happy. Now, Minister Bryan, with all due respect, when you're not happy about something, we have seen you do all sorts of things. You take to your street placards. We need immigration reform now. We need this. We need that. You've gotten on the radio and made your opinion be known. Why haven't I heard?
As I'm doing now.
Okay.
As I'm doing right now. Right.
Why haven't I heard you
many members
before
are not
today?
Calling in the show, but I'm here.
And I listen. Everybody always gives you credit. As a matter of fact, I think it was yesterday, day before, somebody was saying to me, one thing about Kenneth, boy, he can call in and take his licks, and there's some credit to be given for that. But before today, I know you listen to this show, I would say probably most days. Before today, why have you not expressed your displeasure with what's happening?
But that you're making an assumption that I haven't. Sandra, you don't know everything. What I mean by that is you don't know everything that's happening. You don't know what discussions are happening behind closed doors. You don't know. Why do you think I could tell you that the officials were on the radio and Radio came out on Friday? I was not happy that they were on Radio came out and they weren't taking calls from the people. And they refused to take calls. And I was one of the ministers who were calling in. They refused to take calls. So to say that I've not been expressing that would be an unfair statement because I don't say everything that I do. But you also know, because we spoke, I wasn't going to be listening to your show yesterday. So I don't know what you said yesterday because I'm here at a conference with a number of dignitaries trying to do the tourism related. So you know that part, right?
Yeah, no, but no, I wasn't speaking about yesterday. I'm just saying last week and generally speaking, you know, you're saying, okay, behind closed doors, you've been doing it. But, you know, I wonder, because normally, like I said, we hear from you because you are the one person who will get out there and express your opinion. In the past on other issues, we have heard from you publicly. So I'm just wondering until today, why we hadn't heard from you.
Not until just today. I have been expressing myself and I know we have loyal followers to CMR and I respect that. But there are other platforms, there's other forums, there's private meetings, there's caucus, and there's cabinet, there's the briefings from the education department and the chief officer and so forth. So there's other things where I show my displeasure in respect to what has happened. Maybe not to CMR's platform process, but hence the reason now the opportunity have come up this morning. I just so happened to be hearing it on my way to the conference. Why I decided to call it, because I probably would have missed this as well.
Yeah.
But my most important thing I want to leave the callers with, the listeners with, is that Kenneth is not satisfied, and I'm doing everything I can from inside with the minister and the education department, because we have to justify what went wrong. The kids don't deserve this. The parents work too hard. It's causing chaos and stress for them. So we have to fess up and say, listen, this is where we went wrong, and it will happen again. And many of that does to go with the education heads and what went wrong, and they have to explain it. And it can't be on a show that you don't take the calls from the people. I'm sorry. So that's my position on that.
All right.
But Sandra,
thank you very much.
Yes. I do apologize, particularly to the young lady who called in. I don't know who she is. But anybody who believes in me, I don't want you to lose that hope, because I am still the same person today as I was before. Communication is something that can easily be misunderstood, and it happens all the time. And I want her to know that I'm still the same person today, and I still fight for Caymanians as much as I did when I first started in 2017. God bless you and have a wonderful day, Sandra.
All right. Thank you very much, Minister. And to be clear, I wasn't suggesting for 1 minute that he needed to express his opinions here. My point was that he has more resources than anybody else. This is, again, a minister who has been he's been on the forefront of media communications. He calls press conferences when he has something to say. Even sometimes when I go, why are we having a press conference for this? He has his placard that he can put up stuff. He has his own social media that he can say, you know, I wasn't saying that you needed to come on CMR. That's not what I said at all. I'm just saying that there's been a shocking silence. Not just last week. Let me clarify what it is now that I am saying. There has been a shocking silence, generally speaking, around the failures of the educational system in this country. And that has been for years, right? So the point is this. When was the last time we heard Minister Bryan, Minister Wilkes, Minister Andre Ebanks, Minister Jay Ebanks, who else we have in there? Minister, any of them really. Oh, caller, you gotta do some of that background noise for me. When was the last time that we heard any of them speak about education? We got a failing education report the other day about our primary school. You don't expect to see failures in a system until you get to like middle and high school level. This is like the earliest indications that our children, our system is not equipped to serve our children. They are failing at primary school level. And I don't recall hearing any of these government elected officials speak about this. And to me, that is an egregious statement on where we stand and who we are as a country. Good morning, caller.
Good morning. I was hoping for a three-way call with the minister.
Oh, no. You know what happened is you're calling direct and he was calling on WhatsApp. So,
Oh, I understand.
yeah, we can't combine WhatsApp and straight call numbers.
No worries. I just wanted to say that I thank him for his apology. However, actions speak louder than words. And as you have said, and I do give him respect, just as you said, I give him respect for coming on the show, taking his licks and doing his best to respond to the people. However, we have seen time and time again with our government, when they want something done personally to benefit them, and I'm not needing examples because if
you're breaking up a little bit there. Hello? You must have gotten into some sort of a dead zone. No, sorry, you were breaking up there. You said when they want something personally done, and then it went dead after that.
When they want, can you hear me now?
Yes.
When they want something personally done, we have seen time and time again where they make it happen. And I don't need to list those examples. People know, right? When they want something done, they get it done. If education was a priority and if their children were forced to go to our school, the public schools, you would see a change. So in order for me to accept his apology for offending me, for the comments that he made and says he didn't mean it that way, okay, actions speak louder than words. If you are sorry about the state of our schools, and if you are expressing that you are unhappy, do something, period. Do something, and don't say you can't do anything, because we have seen time and time again, when they want something done, they do it. So the people are now crying out saying, we want reform in our education systems. We need more space in John Gray. Don't get me wrong, my child goes to John Gray and there are excellent teachers there, and she hasn't had any issues so far other than the space. It is crowded. It is overcrowded. We are crying out. We are saying, as the voting public, we want a change. So do something. Yes, you can call in the show. Yes, you can call in the show, and I thank you for that. And I thank you for hearing the people. Now listen and put your words into action, period. Thank you.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much. Well, there you go. Let's read a few comments. I'm gonna give her a double kaboom. Let's read some comments now. Hannah, good morning, says my daughter goes there and she said she doesn't even get lunch most days because the lines are too long. And even some of her friends only just get to the front when the bell rings. I mean, come on. What's the sense of giving children free lunches that they don't even have the time to eat because of the overcrowding? You see? When the minister, and I wish he had more time, but I do know that in fact that he has his tourism conference, the regional conference is here this week, so that takes priority. But this has been a complaint that has been shared time and time again. A better system has got to be devised on how children can get school lunches. So imagine, right? He made mention of, the government has done a lot of things to show that we care. I actually wanted him to give me 5 examples, because I think he would find himself pressed really, really hard to do so as it relates to education. Nonetheless, free lunches, they say, without a doubt, would have been one of those things that he would have mentioned. Fantastic. You give us a free lunch, but the children don't even have time to get access to the free lunches. As these young people would say, you got to turn down that background sound. Jesus, fix it. Please fix it. Good morning, caller.
Morning, Sandra. I'm just listening here to your conversation about the schools and the lunch. They always say 2 heads are better than 1 if it's even a cow head. Maybe they can have different times for lunch so everyone can have a lunch. Maybe they can have lunch at 12 some at 1, maybe they can even do like 11:30 or something, so everyone can get a lunch. You
Yeah,
know,
there has
they
to be a
have
way to fix this. Absolutely.
yes, yes,
This
and I
can't be
mean,
rocket science.
yeah, the public can find ways to do these things. I don't know why the educated MLAs can't find ways to do these things, and our government and the whole. I mean, what is so wrong with having changing lunch hours from like 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock? It should be that each one should have a lunch and they should have a time to have their lunch. So I was just giving you a little hint on that. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, my dear. I appreciate it.
Bye-bye.
You know, I know that there are workaround solutions as well, as the caller rightfully pointed out, and I think that like we need to look at those. But everything is so strict, like, oh, classroom time is this, and the bell rings, and it's like, come on. You know, it's so interesting that when they implemented it, they said that, oh, there are children who don't get sufficient food at home, or they're not getting nutritious meals or whatever. So this is going to be an awesome benefit to our children to be able to give them free meals. Yeah, okay, great. And then the children don't even get an opportunity to get their lunch and to be able to eat. The landing flight, says John Gray, needs 2 additional distribution cafeterias outside of the main food prep canteen. They have 1.5 service areas right now. Again, even when the school was just completed, and I mean, when you go back and you look at the design, which we looked at some of the plans for the BRAC school that they do not need, one of the things that strikes me as so incredibly interesting is time and time again, we're using designs like the physical layout and architectural designs for these schools that include too much like centralizing and cramming of people. One cafeteria instead of smaller like breakout areas where you can have less traffic and less congestion of the students. And so we still aren't learning any lessons. Jonathan says, start by cutting the head off of the metaphorical snake. Miss Wanda, good morning. Says, especially those at Lighthouse School or Sunrise Adult Training Center, both seem to be the lowest priority. Oh my God, we have not even gotten to the special needs children. Because in order to pay for her $50 million project, the programs that have to be cut and the people that she refuses to meet with are those very children who need the most resources, the inclusion of anyone. And I use, special needs very, very loosely, but anyone who falls outside of the quote unquote, norm are going to have struggles in the public school system. Because this government has not demonstrated that those people matter. Simple C says, where are they advertising these teacher jobs at? Because the amount of money these teachers are getting in Cayman compared to the rest of the world, we should be getting the best teachers from all over the world with the best references there is. Mr. Victor Locroy, good morning, sir. He's asking, what happened to the PTA? I don't know. Liana says, trust me, that clowns will be getting back in because people have no backbone to stand up for themselves, children, or for God. Shaka Zulu says, Auntie Sandy, I'm happy that you're educating them on the civil service protesting. This is a topic that needs much attention, in my humble opinion. This is one of the causes to Cayman's current mess. Now, somebody else said in relation to that I should be mindful of something called, this is what they said. They said, that there's such a thing as constructive dismissal. Once a department head and or politician, once you've gone from a CIG job, there's no stopping it. Even if you stay at the job, you'll be targeted with no promotions or salary increases, etc. I'm very aware of what constructive dismissal is. And my point is this, even in the face of that, you parents need to find what you're fighting for. Good morning, caller.
Good morning, Sandra. You're absolutely right. The thing I don't understand is that, no, I do understand it. It's incredible that some of the churches do not they give you a hard time if you want to send your child or your children to a private school, but your parents are not in that religion or in that church. So they give, and it's still going on yet. The government dish out money every year for the same private schools. Now, I don't know the amount, but it's been happening for years and years. And some of that money is that of the working people of Cayman and the people that have called Cayman their homes, and they're sending their children to government schools. Some years ago, I was at Foster's Airport, and there was two little boys doing some bagging. So when they bag like that, and they're so tiny, I say, "Come, my son, I can help you." And a friend of theirs from a private school, they were obviously in the government schools. I think it was Georgetown Primary. Say, "That's what you're doing? Bagging?" Yeah, I got paid good, you know. I got paid good. I think it was they were talking about tips. So then the mother said, "Well, I would never make the two you do this." That's their mother now. They were sending the two that they were talking to private schools. Oh no. Now, another thing that is beyond me, some of those parents don't have the gall or the guts or anything else to go and fight for their children. Go and fight for their children. And I mean fist fight. But stand up, protest, whatever they have to do, because they're civil servants. But yet you find those same people, some of them, nobody don't repeat after me that I said all of them. Some of them fighting over man. The children not important. The children should be the most important things in their life after all, God gave them and to them, and they're responsible for them. This is my man, and this is my man. This is my man. Yet the children see all of that because they're fighting, but they're not fighting for their children to get a proper education or to get them in schools that don't have all that sort of thing that you've been speaking.
Yes. I mean, caller, that's a whole, it's a different connected conversation. But yes, I completely agree with you that unfortunately too many of our people have a sense of entitlement. We have a sense of entitlement to stuff that we've never earned. So there's absolutely nothing wrong with children starting out bagging groceries. They have to start somewhere in life. But you see, those are the same children who will go into a workplace and believe that they must start at a management position when they don't have a degree, they don't have a certification, they've never done anything. But, you know, our people have a sense of entitlement simply because we're Caymanians. And I'm going to be the first Caymanian to give y'all a reality check that we need to get out of that mindset. That's not what makes you entitled to anything in this world.
That's right.
So, you know, there's a lot of incorrect messaging that comes directly from parents. I agree with you there, but I do want to continue to focus on education this morning. But don't worry, we got plenty of time for some of the slack parents that are out there as well.
And one morning, please, I want us to get back to this mental hospital that nobody seemed to be in charge of. Nobody.
Right. We'll get there. Don't worry.
Yes.
Thank you, my dear.
Please do. Thank you.
All right,
Thank you.
I appreciate it. I'm trying to get to some of the comments in real time. And of course, that is a little bit challenging. We got a lot of comments that are coming in. Shaka Zulu, when the minister was on, said you skillfully sidestepped that question, sir. Damien said that's how you set precedence and discipline for actions and accountability. Ingrid says that the government has so much money that they're throwing away and not putting interest in making sure the schools are in good condition. Cayman children need a good education and a good environment. Shaka Zulu says, but do you hold them accountable in the end, minister? Liana says, how fast that answer was straight away from the question. So a lot of you feeling like he did not answer the question. Angeline says, all the nice talk is going to come out now that election season is close. They need to be replaced except for a very, very limited few. Excuses, excuses, excuses. Ms. Pat says, sir, you are not able to answer a question. Send the minister who can. Let me just see here. L Boogie says, and if you don't want to hear the truth and take accountability of any issues, only putting up the defense, then don't tune in. The attitudes are the problem. Nothing will change. My goodness. Good morning, caller.
Good morning, Sam. How are you today?
Not bad. How you doing?
Good. I'm listening to the subject in question.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been advocating for probably about 3 years now amongst my peers.
Mm-hmm.
The system is broken. The system that we're using is broken. The electorate system, the election system, the voter system, because the reason number one, when we had a small population, it was easy to manage everybody, etc. Now it's bigger, it's much larger, and the system has become corrupt. I'm not going to call the people corrupt.
Mm-hmm.
It's the system, because once I'm sure there's a lot of people who go in there with good intentions, but there's a system in place. So the only way to change that is to change the system. We have to get rid of district voting. That was I think that was one man, one vote was the first step towards that, and we didn't complete it. Then people who are interested in being leaders should be campaigning and running on portfolios, not just loose promises, knowing they can't accomplish anything unless, I have a party. That is broken. That don't work anymore, because, like I said, there's a written system in place, and they have to follow that. Unfortunately, that written system does not include the benefits of the people on a balance. It does not include it. Politicians will create problems so that later on they can campaign to tell you how they're going to fix them. That is one example of the system. It does not work. People who are successful on the election based on voting on or running on portfolios, they can then form committees under that portfolio they have won. And there's too much separation between the portfolios. For example, roads and transportation should be under the same portfolio. If it is, there's still not enough collaboration between the two sectors to fix the problems that we need fixed on the road and transportation, as an example. So unless we vote to change the system, this is going to go on and go on. It's not going to get any better. Every country around us has failed in using the system, and we are going to fail as well. The only thing that's keeping us afloat for so long because we're small.
Mm-hmm.
But bigger countries, larger populations, and where people are unattached with what's happening, politicians tell them anything and they vote for them, and therefore the system continues and continues and continues. We have to change the system. So I encourage people and voters who are listening, please don't listen to what the politicians are saying.
Mm-hmm.
Study your system. Study how it works, what can be done and what can't be done. Not everything can be done like yesterday morning, but we can work towards getting things done that works for the country and for the people.
Thank you, caller.
You're welcome. Have a good day.
You too. Bye-bye. All right. Good points. Angeline says Juliana should be woman enough to come on this talk show and answer questions the public has. Radio Cayman's the only station she wants to sit on because she's not questioned and grilled to lengths. And so quite frankly, Angeline, I mean, this is interesting because she's made it clear from the second she took over the government. She said that that was her favorite station. Remember, we played that interview to her in OC. And she said she was going to be giving them more money as a result of that. Although she also, in the same breath, admitted that for all purposes, Radio Cayman was failing, but she still felt like they met the government's objective. None of it made any sense. I mean, I was woefully confused. And I wonder why education is such a hot mess. She can't even articulate. She's full of a word salad, but for her to clearly articulate a position, because in that one statement that she made, I was like, what is she saying? Oh, they meet the government's needs, but they need extra help because, they're not really doing such a fantastic job after all. So therefore we have to throw more money at them, because that's always her solution to everything, is throw more money at it. Demonstratively speaking, that has never worked. I mean, it's like, what? But she's made it very, very clear. And to the point, I saw somebody else saying that, if this is where the people are, and again, Kenneth gets credit for that, at least, this is where the people are, this is where they as elected officials should be. I chuckled inwardly, and those of you who are paying attention to my facial expressions probably saw it on my face, when he's on this program promoting that you guys need to go over to YouTube and listen to what was happening on Radio Cayman on Friday. Because none of you were listening to Radio Cayman. I didn't even know that they were on Friday, because if they were on, although we don't listen necessarily to other stations, what I would do in a situation like that is I would invite Renee to go and listen to see if there's any stories that came out of what it is that they said, because we're in the news media business. So of course we want to, share that information with our listeners. I didn't even know that they were there. And to have to promote that they even had anything to say on our platform, did make me chuckle a little bit. Good morning, caller.
Good morning again, Sandra.
Morning.
Sandra, we live in a country, okay? We live in a country where we have a system.
I think you got something on in the back.
I know, I'm sorry. I'll move to it. We are subjugated here to a system where an individual, a candidate who has repeatedly done the same thing over and over, is voted in by a couple of hundred people. Mm-hmm. The absence of any viable, sustainable, and valid form of democracy is allowed to become the leader of the country by hook and by crook. Mm-hmm. But the gentleman who spoke just now struck the truth of the matter. The truth of the matter is that we have a system which is not viable, which is not tenable, which is not valid, which is not sustainable. These are where the changes need to be made. I heard when Mr. Denny was speaking on what I was saying about accountability. I'm talking about protest. Listen, what we need more than protest in Cayman is a solidarity. And we also need this. We need people to finally come to the realization that you can go out there with a placard, okay, and you can protest.
Okay.
But where have you seen that really making a difference? Mm-hmm. What we need in Cayman is a paradigm shift in the way Cayman is governed. And we have an electorate who is subjugated to a system which is designed from the outset, from the construct of that contract, to disallow accountability, to disallow any semblance of real democracy. I repeat, we have somebody at the head of this country who nobody, no majority, not even a semblance of the majority of the people of the Cayman Islands chose to be the leader. This is a problem which needs to be recognized, addressed, and rectified.
That's right. Because let me be very, very clear. Yes, let me be very, very clear here, Jonathan, to that point. If we had a national vote for premier, I believe that Juliana would probably come in last place of all the elected officials. And that is a sad indictment that she's actually the premier of this country. And there's no way that she would get the popular vote for that position. Cayman Brackers will, like I said, for 28 years, I went and double checked her tenure. For 28 years, they have continually put her back. So they might be happy with her. I don't know why, but whatever, that's on them. But as the premier of all 3 Cayman Islands, she would be in the very last spot for premiership. I feel that she'd either be at the very bottom or close enough to the bottom. Thank you, Jonathan.
Sure.
All right. Cayman Kind, good morning. Study your system, a very good point. But how can we get an outline of the system? An outline, you all also have a responsibility. And this is one of the reasons why sometimes I sit here and I kind of go out of my way to try to break things down. You all have a responsibility as well to ensure that you're doing your part, that you are learning what you need to be learning. So there's no excuse in this day and age for really not knowing a lot of things that we claim that we don't know. Good morning, Mr. Donald. So Donald says, I respect the minister. However, stating that Miss Sandy doesn't know what's going on behind closed doors, that's when we, the people, are slapped in the face, because when all of these ministers are looking votes, they're not behind closed doors. So why is it that we, the people, are always kept in the dark when it comes to what decisions are being made for the better of our country? Ms. Sue agreeing with the previous caller who said actions speak louder than words. Donald says, and another thing, why is he always calling in behalf of the minister/premier when it comes to her making a mess of this country? I mean, because he's the only one, to be fair to Kenneth, again, who will, take the risk of even calling in. Jason, I saw a comment from Jason. Jason Carter, what's up, cuz? He says they set him up every time. Who's they? Who sets up the minister? The minister calls in, and I think by now he's very well aware of how this works. This is not amateur hour. Anybody who is in the amateur business and who not ready, you know who you are. One of you got put in your place last week, Monday. This is not the platform you to call. Don't call here. Do yourselves a favor and do call Radio Cayman, because that's where the host is just going to be like, and in his mind, he's thinking about what soup and sandwich combo he's going to be having for lunch. You see, over here, we listen to what you say and we challenge you when you make statements, and we have questions for you. That's proper engagement, even on a talk show. So nobody not setting up. The minister doesn't have to ever call. I mean, obviously he chooses to call, and he's well aware of the standard of this program. Stop dumbing yourselves down. And stop feeling like, oh, somebody's attacking you, you're being challenged, when people are asking you questions in relation to your job. Your job, performance and accountability. Miss Amjan says, Juliana should be woman enough to come on this show and answer questions the public has. Oh, I think we read this already. Yes, again, about her, knowing that she won't be grilled or anything like that. Bring the discussion to the open doors so that people know what you're up to instead of behind closed doors, says Marshall. Ms. Pat says, help me understand this. $50 million in a school with much less students, while CHHS and JGH is not equipped to handle the students they have. Yes, that's about right. Angela also says this is why they run to Radio Cayman, because they can demand that no calls be taken. And that is one reason not to be held accountable and questioned by their lack of leadership. I mean, listen to me, right? There would be no prospect of them coming on this program and say, close off the phone lines. I would be like, say what? That's like people who want to send questions, Q&A, right? And they want to have the questions and answers before they come on the show. Even the governor's office, I'm going to tell you how fair this rule is. Even the governor's office has said to me before, oh yes, the governor will come on, but can we have a list of the questions? I'm like, what questions? I'm not a person who sits down and writes out what we're going to be asking you. This is a live show. It's a live program. So this stuff happens in real time. I can tell you that maybe these areas, like when it was in the middle of the shootings, obviously crime will probably come up. What the question will be, I can't tell you. And if you're not prepared to come in a platform like this, when you represent the people of a country and speak on the cuff, no preparation of questions and all sorts of stuff, why are we electing you? What is that all about? Having the question and answers prepared for you, that's a form of cheating in the real world. And that's not how this works. So Jason, we don't give anybody a Bly. Same thing with MP Wayne Panton when he comes on the program. Sometimes I know there are things that he wants to talk about that we never even get to. Because I'm like, we're here, whatever the people are feeling in the moment and they want to discuss, that's what's going to be discussed. So sometimes it'll be like, okay, let's focus on this and this. And it never happens. Oh, it's a hot mess, y'all. Miss Pat says the largest listening and interactive audience is here on CMR. What a hot mess. Aliana says, I'm sorry, MP Kenneth, but the people are fed up and tired and done. Well, y'all might be fed up and tired, but you can't be done. Because the day that y'all say that you're done, what does that mean? Right? We have to continue to drill our representatives, to continue to stay on top of them like white on rice. I'm sorry, but I'm working too hard out in these streets, hustling 24/7, paying my government fees and this tax and that tax. You know, I'm talking about we don't have taxes. That's a big lie, right? For me to be like, oh yeah, we're going to just drop the baton and y'all can do whatever you want. No, it ain't going to happen. Al Boogie says, what about using the money in the schools instead of spending on a useless referendum? Put them on that. Ay. Well, I tell you what, I want a referendum that is going to be binding on the government. So what the people say is binding. This concept of a non-binding referendum, I have problems with. And that's where I would say, as Al Boogie says, why are we doing it then? Y'all are so disconnected from the community that you can't take a pulse of what the people are actually saying and what they want. Faded Mary Jean says, I don't even like government. I'm here listening to the people who actually think they have a voice, even though they've seen that they don't. Elections are a pacifier for whining babies who actually think that they're getting something good, when in reality, it's a load of gas for 4 years at a time. It's a joke. So what's the alternative, Faded Mary Jean? What are you suggesting then that we do? Simple C says that's why they go on Radio Cayman. They don't say anything on Radio Cayman because they know that no one listens. And by the time they do their dirt, they can turn around and say to the people, they should have listened to Radio Cayman, but they do that on purpose. It's just unbelievable. Johan says, with all these solutions, Jonathan should step up and run for office to implement the changes he seeks. Hashtag just saying. Deandra says they keep raising the teachers' pay, but yet our children are still failing because, again, throwing money at a situation, Deandra, with no requirements of accountability or results is nonsensical. Nobody does that. Nobody does that. Except us, apparently. Except our premier. What a hot mess. So someone says, Kyle says it's time to give PPM a chance. Honey child, we gave them a chance. They had 12, 15 years. How much more of a chance do you think that they should be getting? And to be crystal clear, Kyle, they also had, let me try and get his name right. They also had her as the education minister. No better results then, I can assure you. El Ray, good morning, says, shouldn't government investigate, research all of our schools and see where the biggest and urgent issues are and deal with those as a priority, as opposed to random money wasting on a project that's not needed? Well, you know, this again is where I question what has the ministry gleaned versus what the minister is doing, because obviously the minister seems to be in a bit of a frolic of her own when it comes to this $30 million budget. And, you know, the previous premier, Wayne Panton, one of the reasons why they had to move him is he was not in support of $50 million. Now, somebody made a mention about, you know, they're out there wasting government resources. They got these trucks, these government trucks out there that they're driving up and down in, like they're using, their own personal vehicles. We had a program on this right after Minister Dwayne Seymour got in his car accident. And I said that there has to be greater accountability and a policy, a written policy on the usage of these vehicles. They're not private cars. Well, lo and behold, just on Sunday, somebody sent me the following with questions about why is a minister sitting in a government car at a bar on Eastern Avenue smoking in the government car. And so I asked the question, where is the written policy? Well over a month ago, we were talking about this. I don't know the exact date of his accident, but this came up as a viable question, right? Where is the policy around the usage of these vehicles? These are not private cars. The depreciation on these vehicles is significant already. So tell me now, how is it that ministers, and I don't know what he was doing at the bar. He might have just, it's a bar restaurant. So God knows he might have just been getting lunch. I'm not saying anything about that, not at all. What I'm saying is they are treating these ministerial vehicles as though they are their own personal vehicles, and that should not be the case. This is a government asset, right? So these government vehicles are here, there, and everywhere when they should not be. They should only have access to these government vehicles during official government hours, government functions, that sort of thing. This is not a good look. And to be smoking in a government vehicle should never be permitted. So there you have it. Yep. And I mean, we have to question what else is happening in our government vehicles with Vaseline, big jars of Vaseline in the back seat and all kind of foolishness. Jerry says Juliana is worse than Alden when it comes to wasting her money. Audrey says, good morning, so true. And some can do to her children what they feel, sad but true. I said she was responding to Ms. Bonnie. Liana says the clock is ticking with just over a year until the next general election. It's going to be less than a year now, I'm assuming, on April the 16th. However, the usual buzz of political campaign seems eerily absent because, again, they believe and they think that they can jump up at the last minute, spring a quick little campaign on you guys and get you all riled up and hooray, hooray, hurrah, hurrah. And, you'll vote for them. And that's how it works. I've seen the frenzy around the elections, and there is a degree of excitement with it and whatever. But you guys are so easily fooled. They say things. They don't deliver on their manifestos, not at all. And then they get up on that stage with a bunch of whistle blowing and jamborees and people doing backflips, and y'all forget everything. Liana goes on to say, while the date looms large, Caymanians are left wondering, where are the candidates? Where are the public forums, the door-to-door visits, the passionate speeches outlining visions for our future? All very salient questions, without a doubt. Yep. Jamila feels sorry for Kenneth. She says, oh God, poor Kenneth. In relation to what? Ingrid says getting lunch at a bar. Their lunches there, all right. Burning up government people and government people paid gasoline. Ban all election campaign t-shirts. Don't wear them. I don't know how that's going to help you one way or the other, but there are much bigger issues here that we need to focus on around the campaigning. Bridget says Cayman Brac needs a police station and updated hospital more than a new school. They're paying rent for college, which is only used for exams. No live classes, and the kids log on from home, but are being ignored by teacher. What class is that? So, I mean, I agree. that there's a lot of things on the BRAC that are needed, way more than an overpriced school. You guys have that hall facility there that, again, nobody ever uses. Nobody knows what it's for. Olympic style, again, building it. I guess they said build it and they will come, but nobody came because the pool does not even get serviced, and it sits there and accumulates, algae and whatever else is in there. What a mess. Thank you, Richard. Wishing me a belated happy birthday. Appreciate it. Cassius says, I think Caymanians need to focus on what type of candidate is needed and not focus too much on why no one has declared yet. They will come. We just need to know what we want. Well, Cassius, I agree with you. Indeed, you have to know what you want, because the downside of not knowing what you want is that you will fall for anything. And unfortunately, that has been exactly what has long happened to us as a people. All right, let's read some social media, some WhatsApp messages that are coming in as well. So this one saying, so true what she said. He must remember he couldn't afford his mortgage until he got a government job. Kenneth has made the tourism a mess all over the Caribbean. Islands are receiving 46 cruise ships a day, and we barely get one. Well, to his credit, this is why he says that we need a pier. Now, you guys are going to have to decide if that is the logical reason and what's actually going on. This person says, kaboom, she's the worst education minister ever. The entire DOE is a S show. Tara/Rolson, both past education ministers, sent their children to private schools. And Kenneth is read that for yourselves. No one will forget that. Trust me. And they're referring to the comment, I think, with the air conditioning situation. Listen, I mean, he misspoke for sure. And I think now, because I remember that day and you guys were up in arms about it, again, fall on your sword and said, don't say you didn't mean to say it. Just say, you know what? In the heat of the moment, I shouldn't have said that. Here's another one. Who is the chief officer? Ask yourself that. Children and the education ministry don't grease corrupt, greedy hands. Who is the chief officer? Ask yourself that twice. She's responsible for the ministry along with the minister. We're going to watch her video here in a second. Civil servants cannot speak out without repercussions, no matter what the DG may say in public. She's 100% oblivious. There is a very, very close relationship between the DG and the chief recruitment officer in education. But you probably already know that. I don't even know who the chief recruitment officer is. Therefore, no one will be held accountable. Please never say my name. Boy, we be getting so many anonymous messages. Y'all been messaging me left, right, and center about Dr. Disran and how he almost killed y'all. And every one of you is like, keep me anonymous, Sandy. And I mean, these are high-profile individuals, you know, and nobody wants to go on record. Everybody's like, keep me anonymous. I'm like, wow. Miss Marjorie says, what? I can't imagine that all the money spent in the Cameron BRAC school that's left to grow algae. This is crazy. Money, wait. Yes, the pool is green. Nobody not using it. Oh my gosh. Faded Mary says they're taking notes from your show, the likes and dislikes of the people, to use in their speeches, which will make them sound like they actually care. Address what you addressed, paraphrase, and stand back and watch the people go wild. Faded Mary Jean is definitely jilted. All right, let's listen to the chief officer. She's the acting chief officer for education and what she said about hiring practices in that ministry.
I am Lynette Monteith, Acting Chief Officer in the Ministry of Education. We have heard your concerns about our hiring practices, and I want to address them directly and transparently. Our commitment to developing Caymanian talent is at the heart of everything we do. Currently, 5 out of 6 senior management positions in our ministry and 9 out of 12 in the Department of Education Services are held by Caymanians. People like Jerome McCoy, who advanced from accountant to deputy chief officer. Elroy Bryan, a former educator, now serving as a deputy director in the Department of Education Services. And Dr. Valence Buchanan, leading as principal at Clifton Hunter High School, come readily to mind. These success stories reflect our ongoing efforts to nurture and promote local talent.
So just hold on a second here, folks. Is she actually paying attention to the criticisms and what was said? Nobody was talking about management in the ministry and DES. We were talking about teachers. I mean, this demonstrates again that they don't listen, they don't pay attention, right? The criticisms, nobody mentioned a single person in the ministry. Nobody has complained about senior management and DES. That is not where the complaint is about her hiring Seventh-day Adventist people. It's in the schools. So for her to start out, and I don't know how she ends because this is my first time listening to it, for her to start out addressing that, I'm just like, huh? But that's not where the concern was. So stay focused on what it is that the people want to hear. Why this smoke screen and mirrors? Let's continue listening. Maybe she eventually gets to it.
In recent years, we have increased scholarship funding for those pursuing education studies overseas, encouraging more Caymanians to contribute to our world-class education system. While we prioritize local talent, there are occasions when we need to bring in external expertise to help build capacity and transfer knowledge. When this happens, we ensure these hires contribute to the long-term goal of strengthening our local workforce. I want to assure you that our hiring process strictly adheres to the Public Service Management Act, guaranteeing fairness and transparency. We are committed to continual improvement and welcome your input on how we can better serve our community. If you have questions or need more information, please don't hesitate to reach out to our recruitment team at moerecruitment@gov.ky. We are here to listen, explain, and work together for the benefit of Cayman's education system. Thank you for your commitment to our island's future. Together, we can build a world-class education system.
That's it. That's what I wasted. How many minutes was that of my time? Are you kidding me? Okay. Well, I won't get those minutes back. 2 minutes and 42 seconds of nothing. Yeah, you see, she didn't address the issue, none at all. All right. Well, you missed the boat once again. How incredibly sad is that? That's not where people it said that they had issues or concerns. They pretend to listen, but clearly they do not listen at all. Somebody said we don't have world-class education. Well, that's for sure, Matthew. That's the whole point of today's discussion. We definitely don't have it. Word salad. This was a fancy Caesar salad, I think. I don't even know. Sprinkle a little some of this and some of that, and I don't have any clue what she's talking about. Good morning, caller.
Hi, good morning, Sandy. How are you?
Good morning, dear. Not bad. How you doing?
Good, thank you. I just want to make sure I heard her say correctly. World-class education.
Mm-hmm.
So why do we have so many kids passing through the system that have not passed the previous year's classwork, understand what they studied into the next year? They are causing our children to live in poverty. That is not world-class education. World-class education is ensuring that no child gets leave behind.
Mm-hmm.
And they're leaving our kids behind. It upsets me to hear her say world-class education. Why don't they put summer school for the kids that are failing in some subjects instead of putting them into SciFex. That is a rejected program that they have for children. They're not helping the kids at all. This is so upsetting. I mean, go back to 2005 in Kim and Compass. McKeever puts there with his statuses that he gave away. 2006 in the Kim and Compass literacy results criticized. I mean, come on, what are they going to do? This is not just something just happened overnight. People came out, open your eyes, because your children are being left behind and they do not care. They bring in people that they choose. As we can see right now, the mass majority of teachers are not Kimanian teachers, and they do not care about your children or your child's education. They have no summer program for them. They just put them through the system. They're just making them fail. And this is what goes into your society. Your children that's failing. It's called a generational curse, because when they go out and they start having children and they can't help their children do their schoolwork, when they come to the time to go into school, you get a continuous generational curse going around. So the government needs to pull their socks up and be responsible, as well as a parent, because I had a child. They wanted to put my child through to the next school year, and they did not understand nothing the first time. And I refused. As a parent, you have the right to refuse them putting your child to the next year if they did not understand. Stand up, fight for your children, fight for the education of your child and for this country, because right now we're going downhill instead of going uphill. Thank you, Sandra.
Thank you, my dear.
Have a good day.
You too.
Thanks.
What a mess. Priscilla says, my sister cannot get a call. She's doing her bachelor's in education at UCCI that the ministry has sponsored. And I'm sure she can't even get a job as an assistant. Janetta says, liar, liar, pants on fire. Simple C says she's the one that needs to go. Marshall says that's why there's no action taking place now. Too many anonymous people. Matthew says we don't have a world-class education. Priscilla says every vacant assistant teacher post my sister has applied for and cannot get an acknowledgement from them. Simple C says I have a problem with her only wanting to hire Seventh-day Adventist teachers, and she doesn't address that, not at all. So she literally made us waste 2 minutes and 40-something seconds of our lives that unfortunately we will never get back, and not even addressing what the people's concerns are. Ingrid says, I wonder who wrote that for her. Someone who, again, clearly isn't connected to what's happening in the community and doesn't pay attention. It's not that they don't know, it's that she doesn't have a viable answer. So therefore, because she has no viable answer, she has to come up with this BS response. Again, word salad. It sounds all prim and proper and, world-class education and our commitment. And it's like you're saying a whole bunch of nothing. Did she say world-class education system, says Marshall? How can it be world-class when the primary school is now failing along with the high schools? I don't know. They live in an alternative universe, I think. Matthew says, thanks for wasting hours too, LMAO. Jeanette says you reach out and still no response. Once again, liar, liar. World-class, it's after 9:30, so you can say it now. Inspiring. Inspiring is like world-class, my ass. Kim Mankind says kaboom. Shaka Zulu says, this is Mr. Howell's shoe shop daughter who grew up in Cayman. How can she sound like she never grew up around Caymanians? Her brother sounds completely Caymanian. I don't know. I can't speak to that. I have no clue. I don't know. Maybe she was older when she moved here, because sometimes it's harder to lose an accent if you didn't go to school here. Did you go to school here younger? I have no clue. I can't answer that, not at all. Blake, good morning. Sandra says this is what we get when we bring these type of people teaching in our schools. Matthew says a dumb population is easier to control. That's why. Angeline says, I know Mrs. Howell must be turning in her grave with the disappointment in Lynette. Pat says, explain their definition of world class. What is their criteria? Yeah, Miss Pat, I think there's a disconnect on what she must believe world class means and what the rest of us think of world class. Debbie says, before you can fix the problem, you have to know what the problem is. She's clueless. Well, I'm not sure she's as clueless as she makes out to be. I think that, again, I don't know who wrote this for her and who signed off on this, but it demonstrates a level of disconnect, whether that is willful disconnect or she really is disconnected. Only God knows. Good morning, caller.
On my Sunday, no offense, right? But I listened to the talk show this morning.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm a young Caymanian, right? Mm-hmm. And it's not all Caymanian children, because I have a teenage daughter who just passed her CXCs in high school. She did grade 9, she passed her 3 CXCs, they put her to go and she did it. Not all children that go in there, some of them using drugs and having sex at a young age. Mm-hmm. Right? That's why they're not passing. Maybe some of these children was to be like more reliable for them children to come home and say, well, you know, Mom, I have this problem at school, or that it would be better for us young Caymanians to have something in the future, because look at it, when you go into these public places nowadays, like the offices, you see a lot of people not doing work and they are permit holders getting Caymanian jobs out there, Mom.
All right.
Right?
Let me
Not
hold
only
on.
that.
Hold on. Let me ask you a question.
Yes, Mom.
All right. When you say permit holders getting Caymanian jobs, right? What do you think is a Caymanian job?
Like, for example, look at the accountants in the department. Most of these accountants are not Caymanians, and we as Caymanians go there and study at college to get a job. And they still don't give us a pick-up permit for them.
Mm-hmm. So,
yes, Mom.
All right. So you're saying that your experience is that they're Caymanians who have the requisite qualifications, who are qualified.
Yeah. Yes, Mom.
Because I mean, I'm gonna put you to task here. You have a job of your own?
I'm a cleaner, Mom. I have my cleaner license, which I can hardly get a job for.
What's a cleaner license? What is that?
Oh, janitorial. Sorry, janitorial.
Yeah, but what you mean? You have a business license?
Yes, Mom.
All right. What have you done for yourself when it comes to your education? What did you do? How many passes?
Okay, I went back to school and studied accounts, but I ended up dropping out in the end because I was getting a fight at school.
Getting a fight for what?
No, not me. I was getting a fight because I was getting A's and B's, and they were trying to say I wasn't passing to go on to a different class, and they still made me do the class over.
Okay. So you didn't do the accounting. And what school was this?
UCCI.
All right. So you didn't pass your accounting class at UCCI.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And you thought that was an unfair situation.
Well, not only me. I hear a lot of other people that I mingle with that have the degree, because they went to class with me. They have a degree in it, and they still cannot get a job, Mom.
So there's two things that might actually be going on here, right?
Yeah.
Sorry. So when you talk about the fact that you weren't able to pass academically, I have a lot of questions about that as to why you were not able to pass the class.
Well, I was attending as normal. I was attending.
Yeah, but attendance doesn't mean that you pass. Only in the government schools, and this is the problem, because that now gets in the head of our children. Only in the government primary and secondary school does attendance mean that you pass. Nowhere else in the world do you pass just because you attend. You pass because you meet certain criteria that's expected of you, and normally they figure out whether or not you're at that level through examinations. So that's why they give you exams to see if you have the requisite knowledge to then pass on to the next level. So by the time Caymanian children get to, tertiary education, by the time they get to university level, they think that they're going to continue to be passed just because they show up. And that's not what happens in the real world. So even your friends that you're saying, okay, they have degrees. I mean, I have to ask you, what sort of degrees do they have in terms of the marks that they actually got? How much did they apply themselves?
Well, that one I am able to answer, but I know they went to college and overseas and got their degree. And not only that, they was transferred from UCCI there.
Yeah, but you see, that's not always enough, is my point. And so we as Caymanians have a responsibility to understand what is happening in the real world. And we have to prepare ourselves for that, right? So everything from our interview and presentation skills, the ability to be able to, because listen, when you go in for a job, right? If you have a resume that looks decent, they'll give you an opportunity to come in and sit down and interview. If you're not able to properly present yourself, both in your appearance and what comes out of your mouth and the things that you say, you're not going to get past that. So our people have got to understand this is a real world now that we're dealing with, right? In this country, yes, there are a lot of job opportunities and there are people who are competing for jobs. You don't get the job just because you're a Caymanian. You got to come and come good. So all Caymanians, yourselves, and encourage other young people who, might be listening to the program, that there is a necessity for them to be able to level up themselves, right? They have to go in being as professional as possible. Attitude counts. Being punctual, showing up to work. But before you can even get that far, you've got to secure the job. And you secure the job by prioritizing your education. So I want to say to you, young lady, you say that, you're doing a janitorial business. You have a janitorial license. You must already recognize how tough that is because everybody in Cayman, including my dog Zeus, has a janitorial license. That is one of the most oversaturated industries, right? And it's hard to get contracts that will be able to sustain you with a livable wage. So what I'm going to suggest to you, and then you get, because you're not getting it, then you feel like, I'm going to start taking out for permits of people, make them pay for the permits. You try to find a way to hustle and make it. What I'm going to suggest to you, young lady, I don't know anything about your personal situation, but maybe you should consider going back to school, right? I had a young man reach out to me the other day and he was saying, oh, Miss Sandy, I need a job, like 17, 18 years old. I said, there's nothing necessarily wrong with starting a job at 17 or 18 years old, but the young adult's brain doesn't even fully develop till you're 25. Tell me why you're not furthering your education is what I said to him. So I'm going to encourage you to maybe have another go at it. Sometimes we fail. Sometimes we don't, get the mark. We don't pass. But I really want you to consider, how old are you?
39.
You're 29?
No, 39.
You're 39.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right. And you're at 39 trying to hustle with a little janitorial license. I'm going to suggest to you that maybe you have a look at whether or not you can go back to school, get a certification in something. It doesn't have to be it's not like you have to say, okay, I'm going to commit to 4 years. There's lots of other things that you can do where you can get a certification in 1 or 2 years. There are bookkeeping certifications. There are IT related certifications. There's other things that you can do because I'm going to be really honest with you that the hustle of being a self-employed person isn't always what it's cut out to be. It is actually easier for you to work for somebody else where you just show up, do what you need to do, collect your paycheck, and you go home and you can, relax. You're not going to think about, oh my God, I'm not making enough money. I don't have enough contracts. I can't pay my bills. Find a decent job. And so, I want to encourage you. And I think that, I appreciate you, first of all, calling into the program. You've been very, very respectful this morning. And I appreciate that. And any way in which we can help, tell us how, we can do that. Because at any age, prioritize your education.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. And just stick with it, because I know a lot of our young people are frustrated, but that frustration, you have to turn that energy into something that's actually going to help you, because there's no job out there that is a Caymanian job. No one is going to give you anything in this world just because you're a Caymanian.
Right.
All right.
Yes, sir.
All right. Thank you very much, young lady.
All right. Thank you, Miss Sandy. Bye.
All right. You're welcome. It is tough, and I think for far too long, we've had this attitude as Caymanians that, I can leave a job today and by tomorrow I have a whole new job. Well, I hate to tell y'all, but those days are long gone. And so unfortunately, there are people, Caymanians in our community who hold on to those glory days, despite the fact that they're long gone. And so you got to pull up your boots now, and you have to do what is required. We have to teach our children. No one is going to give you anything in life. So Simple C says, she didn't advance to the next level of accounting. Yes, she didn't pass the class. But that doesn't have anything to do with the school. It sounds like she had an expectation that maybe wasn't realistic. I showed up. Showing up is not enough. That's the bare minimum. You don't get a grade for showing up in university. Like I said, that's the failures of our primary and secondary system. By the time you get to your tertiary education, they're like, yeah, you show up, but you got to be able to pass these exams. Cassius says, I'm equally interested in what Caymanian children are doing to push themselves and excel in school. It's not just about blaming Juliana for failures happening to students. Accountability all around. And I absolutely agree with that 1000%. Same conversation. And parents, you have a responsibility to be encouraging and spending time with your children and teaching them to level up. You have to say to them, showing up in life is not enough. I don't care what Julie says, what the ministry says. As that one parent said, she held her child back because the child was not ready. And she was not going to put her child in that position of failing. Going from one grade to the next, and children can't even read and write and don't understand 2 + 2 actually equals 4. RMR says, sounds like a case of low or no accountability. We have to wake up and be honest with ourselves. And unfortunately, that conversation, taking a really strong look in the mirror isn't happening. So Simple C's talk about her vocabulary. I mean, yes, again, you got to come if you want an office job. You have to be able to answer that phone properly and sound a particular way. Listen, when I was working at Maples, I was in law school and I used to help out at reception because it was easy job, not too taxing. I started as a secretary. When I got my scholarship and I started law school, I said, right, can I move into a different position? Where I can just kind of like sit here and answer the phone. I used to work in the library, wherever they needed me, special projects during the summer. And one of the things that was really, really interesting to me is the receptionists at Maples actually make really good money. So you can be a receptionist if you're in the right organization and still make, $4 or $5 grand a month as a receptionist. But honey child, you have to sound the part. They've got international clients. They've got, royalty coming in from Dubai and the wee hours of the night. I remember when that happened one evening, because he does not, that particular prince does not, he's not around people during the day and stuff. So when he flies in his multi-million-dollar private jet to meet with a Tony Travers, head partner and this and that, whatever, he comes in after hours with his private security. And there I am, working reception, because we used to have our reception open until kind of late. And so I was there. And, again, you have to look the part. You have to be able to speak the part and, so on, because these people are dealing with the 1%ers. So they can't hire someone who doesn't even sound like they can answer the phone properly. So when you call over that, good afternoon, even the Caymanians be sounding like they're English and proper. Good afternoon, you've reached Maples and Calder. And as soon as they come out, they can go and speak whatever Caymanian twang-a-lang-a-lang that they want, but not while you're answering that phone. And if you're not capable of doing that, which means that when you go into the interview, you also have to sound good and look good for them to go, okay, we think she can learn how to answer a very busy switchboard. But if you're not capable, then you're not going to get a foot in the door. So there's a lot of grooming. It's not even just about sometimes, okay, you got this degree. I know Caymanians with a degree that you sit down and you talk to them. And unfortunately, when you hear what comes out of their mouth, you're kind of like, yeah, I can see why you're not employable. You got to step it up, and not to say that there's anything wrong with our colloquial. You guys know, for God's sake, when I'm ready, I'm going to turn it on. There's nothing wrong with their colloquial way of speaking, but that has to be put in the proper context. It's not always appropriate. And you can listen. You don't have to try and sound like anybody else, but you have to be prepared to use proper English and that sort of thing. So you can sound as Caymanian as you want, but you got to conjugate your verbs properly and do your best to pronounce words as they should be. That's why I never get insulted. Where's Soka? Is she here today? God knows she always be correcting me. Sandy, that's not how you pronounce that word. And I never get insulted by stuff like that because, I'm sure people listen like, oh yeah, Sandy, not even pronounce that word right. How smart can she be? So I'm here to learn. Thank God for dictionary.com. I'm like, I don't know how to pronounce it. Let me go Google it, child. See where that emphasis, which syllabi the emphasis should actually be placed on, because I'm getting it wrong. It's a lifelong thing, and you have to be willing to learn. And again, it's crazy to me that we've elected people who themselves have no degrees, no certifications. So they can't even lead by example in that regard. I mean, look at McKeeva Bush, not for nothing, but he talks about, I only had a high school education. Minister Seymour, I just have high school and I don't have nothing else. That is not something to brag about when you're being paid $8,000 a month. And that's why so many of our people are like, well, this person can be an elected official and they not got no sense. They don't have common sense. They talk in parables about donkeys and this and that, and we're clueless about what they're actually saying, right? All they have to do is say amen at the end of it, and y'all like, woo! Yes, praise the Lord, hallelujah. Then I said nothing of substance. Even Julie, Premier Juliana O'Connor Connolly, even to her, will sit there with her word salad and it sounds good, but when you listen carefully to what she's saying, you're like, what is she saying? It don't make any sense. And yet we are so easily fooled and deceived into thinking, right? Shaka Zulu says, control your double negatives. We are so easily fooled into thinking that wow, she's intelligent because, she says a lot. She says a lot. She throws out a lot of big words, but a lot of times they're completely in the wrong context. That's not a marker of someone who's actually intelligent. And so our leaders of government or MPs, they themselves have demonstrated that, because I'm Caymanian and I can get elected to public office, I'm now making $12,000 a month plus as a minister with not even so much as a high school diploma. No wonder our children think that anybody can be a success story in this country. And I think that that's the wrong message to be sending to the entire world in our community. And then they don't even try. Like, okay, back in the day when McKeeva Bush, she's been there for 40 years, when he got elected, all right, you didn't need much. This is 2024. Ask yourself, has he ever, and I'm not saying McKeeva Bush is not a smart guy, because considering the fact that he doesn't have anything, he can read through legislation and comprehend stuff, and he has real world life experience. But why hasn't he ever thought, you know what, I want to set a good example for the young people coming behind me, right? Which means that I'm going to get up and go get a little piece of paper. 40 years in government, double dipping in your pension, on average making $10,000, $12,000, $16,000 as Speaker of the House, and you can't even go and get yourself a little certificate? Finances is no problem. God knows if you stay out of the bar room, time would be no problem either. You have plenty of time to dedicate to an actual degree. And yet they don't do it. And so what example then are we setting for our children? That's why, again, going back to our little friend Hunter, when he said to me, and I know why people put these questions to you, when he said, well, what were you doing when you were 27? Because the implication is everybody's doing the exact same thing as him, which is a whole lot of nothing, and bragging about he's had 6 failed businesses. And I had to think about it. And I said, okay, what year was I 27 again? I actually had to go back and do some math. And when I figured out what year it was, hold on a second, let me tell y'all now. 27, I would have been back in Cayman, right? So that was 2000. I came back in 1996. So I was back here for 4 years. So at that point, I had 2 degrees. I had my bachelor's degree before I left Tampa. I moved back to Cayman with that, got a job, working in a law firm, went to law school. And actually in 2000 is when I graduated from law school. So I had 2 degrees and a mortgage and my little car. So your point of asking that question is you're trying to say that no 27-year-old Caymanian has their ish halfway together, and that simply isn't true. I take my hat off to the Caymanians who are doing the things that they know they have to do. Yes, the hustle is real. Like I said the other day when I was addressing him, don't feel like you're entitled to anything. No one gave you anything in life. Some of us might get a little bit more than others. So some of y'all have looks going in your favor. So somebody might give you a little blight in the door because you look half decent. Right? A lot of us we ain't got nothing. We don't have no skin color. We ain't got no daddy and mama helping us with payments and mortgages. And, you can stay at home till you save enough money to do this, that. No, I was out at 18 in these streets, folks, living in the real world. Nobody was going to hold my hand, and had to figure it out really, really quickly in terms of, okay, how do I try to stay on the straight and narrow path? Right? So at the end of the day, you're not got no last name that's going to get and open any doors for you. You have got to be real about the world in which we live. And that you, despite, having mommy and daddy issues, don't let that stop you. I mean, I hate to tell you, but so many Caymanians have that particular issue. I mean, I can't get into that discussion today, but a lot of us do. So there's no legitimate excuse once you get to a certain age why you can't forge your way in this world. Now, I didn't say it was going to be easy. I never said anybody's going to give you anything on a silver platter. God knows, right? I've had my fair share of hungry belly days in university. I was trying to figure out, oh my God, I don't even know how my tuition is going to get paid. Because I was in the States, couldn't work at the time because I didn't have residency. Was limited to little on-campus jobs. They wasn't paying you much. That's why I became an RA, because I'm like, okay, at least if I have room and board covered, like I know I got a safe place at night to put my head down on a pillow, and they're going to feed me 3 meals a day. Anything in between is extra. I'm good. I don't have to worry about that. Those are 2 big things when you're in university, accommodation and food. So that I just got to hustle for tuition money. Simple C's says Cayman's grammar is so off. I mean, we have some significant improvements that oftentimes you have to make, because we grew up thinking that everything in life, you can speak all this slang and whatever, and that's perfectly fine. And I'm telling you, in office environments and professional environments, that's not going to work. You can do that amongst your school friends, but once you're on the job, you better make sure you can speak properly to people. Strong Wilt says, Sandy, I want you to be my mom. You probably don't, because, well, maybe. I don't know. I'm tender but tough at the same time, if that makes any sense. I had to have a little conversation with Gigi yesterday, something that she needs to make some improvements on and level up on. And so we had the conversation. I said, listen, I just tell her how it is. I said, there's certain expectations that the world has, and there are things that you have to do. And I will say straight up to her, if you don't do this, and this was more about her just, at 8 years old, making sure you're brushing your teeth properly, making sure you're flossing. Personal hygiene is very, very important. And I say straight up to her, you know what happens to people who don't have good personal hygiene habits? They catch diseases, germs, and nobody wants to be around them. Your friends are not going to like you if you're stinky. And an 8-year-old can understand that. You have to say things at their level. And listen, I say it very, very calmly, honey child. I said, nobody wants to be around a stinky person, right? And I said, you know what? People make fun of you if you don't smell clean, if you don't look good. And so that's one of the reasons why it's really important for you to make sure personal hygiene is a number one priority. Have these conversations with your children. This is real world stuff. The landing flight says good. Use the word Gen Z understands, level up. If you can't compete in this world, you don't stand a chance. Don't think about who is coming in. People travel all over the world to take up careers. And I think that unfortunately, the more and more, that's why a lot of times you'll notice that I've had conversations around, of course, this encroachment on us and our culture and our jobs and so forth. But you'll notice that I temper it quite a bit because I do know, and I hear it all the time, that there's a lot of Caymanians who have that expectation of nobody can come here and take a Caymanian job or jobs for us. When they're nowhere near the mark. They've not done anything at all that they need to be doing. And I'm sorry, but you can't make that argument with me about lost job opportunities when nobody would hire you if you were the last person standing. They would outsource the job first or close down their business. If you said, okay, no expats, no anybody else, but hire from this pool of Caymanians. If that pool of Caymanians are not job ready, you can't force businesses to hire them. And as a small business owner, I appreciate both sides of this argument. It is wastage of time and resources to employ people who are not where they need to be for that specific job. They don't show up to work. They don't want to do it. They're always late. They got an attitude. They can't speak to customers. No customer service. They come, they don't want to clean it. Ain't nobody got time for that. When you're a business owner, you understand time is money. And the amount of time you can waste on certain people just doesn't even make it worth it. So I completely understand. I've had people reach out to me. Oh, I'd like to be able to write for CMR. And I said, okay, send me a sample of, writing that you've done. Oh, I've never really written before, Miss Sandy. And I said, oh, well, how are you going to write for CMR? I'm not saying that we're perfect. And God knows I stay on top of my writers. I'm like, the amateur typos and stuff that you be seeing, we should not be doing. Because we have the tools there, Grammarly and other tools that should be catching about 98% of those typos. I'm like, take the time. A lot of it is just rushing. I'm like, take the time, turn the tool on, and don't rush. You have to read over your articles and use the available tools to spell check. But it's not that these people don't know how to write. They've written for Bahamian newspapers in Bermuda Times, whatever the heck the newspaper is called. They have the experience under their belt. And so business owners have requirements. And you will see nowhere on their list of requirements really is that you should be a Caymanian. It'd be great if you can hire a Caymanian. But if y'all are not coming ready, then we got a problem. Sharon, good morning. How are you? She says, you can't build a strong education if in primary school education is failing badly. How can Caymanian children excel in upper middle school? They can't. And this is the very issue that we're talking about here this morning. She says, high school and be prepared for viable careers. I say that you build a house on sand and not concrete. It will not stand. Same with education. As a grandmother, maybe, I have seen my grandchild come home without an assignment specifically to be taught on a computer. Live Happy says, and she can use free learning resources online. Yes, there's a lot of things. And I always try to, whatever resources I find as a parent, I'm happy to tell y'all. Go and, we have flashcards now. We were practicing flashcards before Gigi went to bed last night. The words that she doesn't know on her own, I put in one pile. And I know, okay, we need to focus on getting her to know those words. I must say, She actually got about 80, 90% of the words right. There was just a few that she was like, I'm not sure what that word is, or she said some word that's close but wasn't quite it, right? Everything that you can do, and learning is fun. I don't know at what point learning became so laborious and it's like something that we hate doing, right? There's so many models around the world, the Montessori model and others, where learning is a fun thing to do, and you can make it fun with your kids. So parents, we've been talking about education from the perspective of DS and their failures, the ministry and their failures, the minister and her failures. But let me wrap up now by saying that you as parents have a humongous opportunity here to really instill in your children how fun it is, right? To learn. I mean, I love learning. I love to learn, you sit down and you hear children. I think naturally children have a love of it as well. It is the system and the structure of education that often makes it not so much fun. The old style grilling of, okay, class, they whip out their little ruler. Now we're gonna learn our ABCs. And teaching them repetitive learning, like just say the word over and over again. And 2 + 2 = 4. And 2 + 3, it's like, that is the lowest form actually of learning. The way that children learn is important. Using tools, making learning fun, games, right? Their brain will make the necessary connection. Like, okay, you put these 2 pegs in here, and then they start to see, oh my gosh, when I do this, look over here. This is, the brain, funny enough, the human brain loves order. It loves patterns. And we always look for, that's why when you look up at the sky and you see Jesus in the sky, Jesus ain't in the sky, honey child. It is just that your brain loves to make, there's an actual term for it. I can't remember what it is right now. But visually, your brain likes the familiar things and likes to take something and make it into something that you can relate. Can somebody remind me what that word is again? I can't remember what it's called now, but the brain does that all the time on its own. And so teachers who are worth their salt, and I'm telling you that unfortunately, we're hiring a lot of teachers who are using old school methods that are 30, 40 years old. That's no longer good science on how to teach children. And we're still hiring those individuals because unfortunately, where they come from, out in the country, that's all they have available to them. They don't have much in the way of technology. They don't have STEM. They don't have all of these things. And so we're also doing our children a disservice by the type and caliber of individuals that we're hiring to type our children, because their methods of teaching are outdated. Listen carefully to me now, Caymanians, because I know some of y'all got to get up in your feelings about this. I dare you to go to any Montessori school on island, and you're going to see that the vast majority of people there are not Caymanians. Which Caymanian teacher has studied and undertaken the Montessori system? Well, Bree at Montessori Cayman is a Caymanian, and she has the school there, right? But the majority of teachers, the majority of support staff are not, because they're using outdated methods to get to your children, to teach them the love of learning. It's like hand-based, it's experience-based. You learn by doing. You learn these shapes, not by sitting up and looking at them on a board. This is an octagon, this is a square, this is a circle. You learn by putting those things in the actual spaces on games and consistently saying, oh, this, has 8 shapes. And that's why it's an octagon. Anything with 8 legs, it's this, that's how you learn. That's effective learning. Nothing remains the same, not even education, not even the delivery of education services. Let me see. Are you talking about hypophenia? Let me see what it's called. Hold on. I can't remember, to be honest. Let me see. Not quite. I mean, that is the tendency to perceive a connection or meaningful pattern between unrelated or random things. This is actually, hold on, let me tell you what it is. This is where we have a tendency to want to, no, this one is called pareidolia. So it's our, where we see like animals and faces and objects in different formations, like cloud formations and stuff like that. So it's slightly different. And, you know, but it's, the two are connected in the sense that our brain is always looking for like certain patterns and stuff. Let me see if we can, let's get the correct pronunciation, because I'm sure what I just said isn't it. Let's see if we can get it. Pronunciation, etymology, first used in 1962. Let's see here. Pareidolia. All right. So that's a tendency to perceive a specific, often meaningful image in a random or ambiguous visual pattern. And again, that's just the human brain likes patterns, it likes structure, it likes, you know, as much as we're in chaos, our brains don't actually like chaos, and neither do your children. And so that is something that all parents should really be mindful of. So, you know, we got a lot of work to do. We are here. I think we can be a resource to each other. So if I find something that works, I share it with you guys. You can use it with your children of a similar age. You know, there's a lot of free resources. So tomorrow, because the new school year has started, I want to share some of those free resources with you guys at the beginning of the show so that you can utilize, you can print off stuff, additional work for your kids, you know, use flashcards, play games, like I said, in order to make kids have a good time. So we love to play when we're driving I Spy. You know, when they're younger, it's like basic colors. But as they get older, you can start to do I Spy with like letters and encourage them to be able to pick up on like spelling of words. So maybe don't give them the full thing, but okay, I spy, you know, something that begins with the letter A. And if I'm passing the airport, it could be airport, it could be airplane, you know, and so then your child starts to think, oh, wow, what begins with A? And they start going through all the letters. There's so many fun and interesting ways in which you can make learning a lifetime love and something that they will enjoy forever. Okay? So we can do this. We can improve upon our educational system, and we have an obligation to do so for our country, for our children, for our country. We're not going to go far if we continue this model of not prioritizing education. So when I hear, oh, you know, the education minister is not happy and she does not find the time or energy to express that to the people, she doesn't have to, you know, I get that there's a degree of diplomacy that she has to engage in because she has to work with civil servants. And, you know, she doesn't have to throw them under the bus completely. But like I said to the minister when he was on, to me, that's interesting because last week she was effectively throwing Minister Andre under the bus over this credit union fee. And she could find the time and energy to publicly get on radio and in her word salad ways said that, oh, I don't support this, and this never came to cabinet. That's how she threw him under the bus. And it's not the truth, is more importantly. So you can't say, as a matter of fact, she can't even show up. The ministry can't even show up to the whole CIFIC meeting that happened last week where the parents were. Miss Lynette, with all due respect, you have time to issue this statement. But where were you last week at the CIFIC meeting to see parents face-to-face, to see your teachers face-to-face, to tell them that, oh, somebody dropped the ball and the school isn't ready? You see, this is when your actions, as someone rightfully said, that caller this morning, your actions speak louder than your words. Because when your actions don't align with what it is that you're saying, then I don't believe you. You can say whatever you want, But if there's no alignment, I do not believe you. It's as simple as that. Come on now. This is it. This is what we're talking about here. There's no alignment. You're talking about you want we have a world-class education. Nobody believed that. Your actions have to demonstrate that. Minister, if you cared about education, you would go to every single graduation unless you're sick and in your bed with COVID again. You're at the salon in the afternoon getting your hair done, and you still don't go to UCCI graduation. How are we to believe when you tell our children, you get up at John Gray opening and you give this impassioned speech to our young people about, they must prioritize their education, but you don't prioritize their education? You don't even show up. Like I said, showing up is like the basic thing that you do in this world. Right? You speak out about what you want to speak out about, regardless of who it is that you're throwing under the bus. So when you don't speak out to say, we have failed your children yet again this year with the lack of preparation for the schools, I cannot believe then your words that you are a concerned minister of education and that you even want it to be a world-class educational system. That does not properly align. All right? And that's what it is. What a hot mess. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to the program. Really, really appreciate all of your contributions, all of the phone calls. It's days like this that I remain optimistic, because I see that as parents, there are a lot of you who do care. Simple C says, we have a world-class education in Dart's school, not in our children's school, or not in our own schools. By the way, that's not Dart's school. They leased the property from him. That's not, he doesn't have any ownership in that school at all, actually. They're another tenant. It's just that they are able to, have that space and have the facility there. Having said that, they offer a lot. They sent out an email saying that 25% now of their student body is Caymanian, and we'd love to see that increase. There's more and more diversity in a lot of the private schools, and I think that that's a good thing. One of the things that school does do, and I think that this, I don't want to misspeak because I don't know if Dart has a role in this or not, but the school offers scholarships. I think last year it was 10 scholarships to Caymanians. I don't know about this year, how many, but 10 Caymanians and other Caymanian children and other government schools got a full scholarship to be able to go. And one of the reasons why they don't announce it is that they don't want the children there, like the other kids, to be like, oh, this is a charity case or a scholarship kid or whatever. Because, some kids who go to private schools are going to be snotty and they're raised up in this elitism kind of household and whatever. So the school doesn't want to identify who those children are, because they want them to try to integrate just as, seamlessly and without a whole lot of hoopla and whatever into the school environment. But they actually give them full scholarships to the school, and they do the IB program, the International Baccalaureate program. And so it is different, unlike our English-based system where you're done with high school at 15, 16 years old. You're not even mature enough to properly floss your teeth, child. We really need to keep these kids in school till they're at least 18. But anyway, that's a whole other discussion. But the preparation is very different. And I know of a parent, she's a civil servant. Her daughter was accepted, and she said to me, when they tested her, because they're going to test you to see where in the school, how you're doing academically. And in government school, she was the cat's meow, doing very well academically. But when CIS tested her, they said, oh, she's actually very weak in math. I don't care what government exam results were telling you, she's very weak in math. And so we would recommend, in order for her to get ready in the next 2 years to pass these exams that are a requirement, we would recommend that she stays back. So instead of going to say she was in, I don't know, 9th grade or whatever, right? instead of, making her go on to 10, when she moves over to CIS, put her back in their year 9, and then get her additional tutoring and additional help in order for her to catch up to where she's going to need to be in terms of like the testing requirements and stuff like that. You see, that's good advice. And the parent told me that, and she said that that's exactly what they, as parents, decided to do. There was no rush to push her out in the world at 16 and say, oh yeah, you're done with your education. In fact, they just received, and I don't think they publicized this, but I was talking to someone, it came up in a discussion that there was a guy on island who was visiting the school as part of the International Baccalaureate accredited schools and whatever. And he was visiting because CIS has received like top accolades for being one of the best IB schools in the region. I think they should probably publicize that, but that's a matter for them. I'm not their PR team. But these things matter, parents, and you've got to really ensure that you're doing your part, your kids are doing their part, teachers need to be doing their part, the administration, DES. Anyway, this conversation, I got to tell you, the spirit just kind of took me this morning because I had even forgot to schedule the show today. I don't know if you guys noticed that, but if you see the headline, you're like, it was just like, wake up, because I forgot to schedule the show. Last night, I was so deep in these legal things still, and I'm trying to wrap that up so I can submit it. But so this morning, as I came on the show, I was just led to have this discussion. This wasn't planned. There was no outline. There was nothing. So everything you heard me talk about today was very much from the heart, off the cuff, not an intended conversation. But I'm certainly glad that we had this conversation today, and we need to prioritize your children more. Yes, they're US-based curriculum. Keisha says what we need to do is make our children open a business as soon as possible. Social media is their bread and butter, and there's money within those apps. That's what we need to educate them on. Well, as someone who's actually in this space, I think there's a lot of misconceptions about social media as a way of earning money. And there's a lot of people who think, it would be easy to earn money just because you have a social media presence. And that's not really the case. I think it depends on what you do. So yes, there are YouTubers out there who have, 35 million followers. I mean, obviously at that point you can get brand deals and whatever. But listen, even when you do that sort of thing, you have to have business acumen. You got to know things about what to look for in a contract and how to sign contracts and how to negotiate. And you can't tell a 15-year-old how to do those things, right? So somebody has to be equipped with the business skills. And there's far more people who try to get into, social media as social media content creators who fail than are successful. And so there's a lesson in that, once again, that the skills that it takes, underlying skills, if you don't have those, it doesn't really matter too much what the business model is. If you don't have the necessary skills to be a business person, you're going to fail, right? And so it's not just about getting in front of a mic and being able to do a cute little TikTok dance that's going to make you go viral and actually earn you money. There's a lot more that goes into these things than people will ever recognize. I don't monetize any of my platforms. I've never turned on monetization on Facebook, on YouTube. We're on TikTok, but hardly really, but I don't monetize any of it. Because you know where my money comes from? I'm a consultant. Yes, we get some ad revenue and stuff, but most of my money comes from the fact that people know my knowledge, know what I can bring to the table, and want to pay me for that. You can't just be a content creator and think that that's necessarily going to pay the bills. So I get paid for what I know and how I'm able to articulate that to my clients to teach them how to grow their business and what are the things that they need to be doing. 99% of my contracts is because of me and what I'm actually bringing to the table. Now, if I can't even have a conversation, like I can't even speak half proper, right? And I know that's not correct. If I can't speak properly, you know what I mean? Which client is going to buy into what I'm selling? Right? If your children can't communicate, content creation is only going to get them so far. So be mindful of even that. Miss Della, where you been, honey child? We missed you around here. She says, does she not realize that actions speak louder than words? How can you expect people to believe what you're taking so much time to read as a statement? Marshall says the Spirit just moved you to have this conversation. Yeah, I mean, honestly. Marge Lee says SciFec is not a bad school as it gives children a second chance if they don't pass math or English. If high school was like the SciFec teacher system, our children may not need SciFec. However, SciFec caters to children who are A students but failed math due to anxiety, for example. You know, I must admit that I don't really know a whole lot about SciFec. Like, I don't know how you go to SciFec, like who can go and who can't go. So I need to probably learn a little bit about that myself. I just know that it's like a continuing education, but I don't really know a whole lot about it, I'll be honest. How come that person that evaluated CIS doesn't evaluate our public schools? Could you imagine the ratings our schools would really get? Listen, they're doing their own self-evaluation. I mean, I guess they have their team of evaluators and they're failing. So we don't need a CIS evaluator to tell us we're failing. We have those reports already. We have school inspectorates that say that we're failing. That's enough. Shaka Zulu says, this is what makes you a skilled operator, Auntie Sandy. You can go with the flow of things as necessary with professionalism and grace. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. And, you know, there's times when I have no professionalism and no grace, and I intentionally try to save those for the after hour, and I, you know, turn up a little bit. But there's a time and place for everything, and this certainly was not the discussion for any of that. You know what I mean? While still representing your culture and background. Thank you. I appreciate that. It's basically grade 12 and they can do trades as well, says Gabby. Well, I think all children need to go to grade 12 personally. You're not ready otherwise. All right, folks. Thank you guys so much. Can I just tell you how amazing you guys are? Oh, Lord, have mercy. What is this now? Oh, this is so funny. Oh, she changed the kids to new school. Good for her. What a hot mess. Ay. Anyway, I'll look at that after the show. Even those of us who have the appearance of coming from money have to bust our ass working and going to school full time to prove our own position here on these islands. Entitlement amongst the Kimanian is a really sad story, Sandy, says this person. Yeah. Melita says, Sandy, you got the nerve to say that Makiva's thinking about young ones coming behind him. You can't see he not even want to retire. Lord Jesus. This person says, common sense, not too common. Educated fools with no sense. The SDA church is where teaching jobs are being advertised. We have children that have been sent through our system without passing math and English. And SciFec has some of the better teachers in John Gray High School and CHHS. My people, they put with the little emoji like this. We have a recent high level of dropouts at UCCI as a result of students got a reality check on how college works, and they have to actually focus and do the work. These young people are now quitting jobs because they're not making $4,000 to $5,000 a month. Which young person thinks that they can make $4,000 to $5,000 a month with a high school education? I mean, come again, because I don't know what y'all talking about. There is a degree of unrealistic expectations. This person said, you turn up a little bit. You mean a lot of bit. Yeah. Earlier, this person says, take time with her. I think I did. I did my best. You got a twang, says this person. Stop making fun of that woman. She wants to be an accountant. There's no such thing as a Caymanian. They should start calling themselves English. Well, no, I appreciate her attitude for sure. And, starts with that. And I think, I would encourage her again. I thought she was a lot younger based on how she sounded, her voice. But she's 39. That's still plenty young, child. You got your whole life ahead of you. This person says world class. She's taking the piss, right? The donkey don't even understand what the problem is. This donkey don't even understand what the problem is. Oh my God. All right, I'll read through some of these others. Good day. Is there a reason why the Clifton Hunter canteen is not providing orange juice in the mornings? Government is paying for breakfast and lunch, and they're buying Capri Sun and another cheap drink. Cayman people need to protest on social media. Listen, if we claim that we want our children to have nutritional meals and, something that's a bit healthy, all of these juices, even orange juice that comes in the container, ain't no good for you. If it's not fresh squeeze, if it's not an orange that they can suck on and get the juice, or somebody's squeezing it out and making them fresh squeezed juice, I can tell you that all of those drinks are horrific. I try every once in a while, I buy orange juice, but I try not to buy it at all because it's no better for you than sodas. All those juices are no better for you. Unless you're juicing it, like you're getting a juicer and you're juicing it straight from the fruit. That's the juices that they should be serving our children. And of course, that ain't going to come cheap because that takes labor to be juicing that kind of thing. But the orange juice that they're going to get, whether it's, what's that one brand called? Forget the name now. Something is a T. Anyway, that ain't no better for your children, child. Believe me, you should probably be thanking them that they're not serving your kids that. All right, folks. Thank you so much. Corbin making me laugh. Sandra for president. No. I'll leave that to somebody else. Dual enrollment. We've heard a little bit about that when the UCCA president was on again. I think that's good. Yeah. All right. Magdalene says, not even a first degree, no experience, and you're making 4 to 5. I know, right? Tropicana. Thank you, Shaka Zulu. In what world y'all want to make $4 or $5 grand a month and can't even string a proper sentence together? Ugh, no, sir. Capri Sun has reformulated its original juice drink pouches with monk fruit concentrate, which reduces the sugar per serving by an average of 40%. Well, the sugar might be one of the problems. Tell me about this monk fruit, though. That's obviously a whole other conversation. But some of these sweeteners and substitutes, let's be careful with those as well. This one says it's a natural 0-calorie sweetener. It's high in unique antioxidants called moghrosides, which makes up about 100 to 250 times sweeter. Okay. I'll look into that some more, because artificial sweeteners, by the time that they're finished doing what they do to artificial sweeteners, they're also no better for you. You need to be very, very careful. All right. No nutrition conversation. Oh, let me check the other phone. Hold on. I forgot to look over here today. Good morning, Miss Sandra. The whole issue is education. In education is that education is a mere collection of books. If a person can read, the person don't have to go to university to get a degree. Well, in the real world, it's more than just reading. So, this other person says he failed to answer the question. I think this is going back to Kenneth. Yes, it's beyond him because his kids don't go to government schools. See how fast he strayed away from the question. Hang up the phone. He already answered the last caller. Listen to me, folks. I'm always weary of people, and that's why sometimes I'll ask questions more than once or ask in a different way. I am always weary of people not answering the question. I say this to you guys all the time. Where we have, you know, even I didn't watch the pageant obviously this weekend, but even pageant queens, when they ask a question they can't answer, I'm like, it strikes me though, to be fair, that there is art form to be able to answer questions. And quite frankly, that is the first thing that you have to do is actually listen. Let's end this. After the premier won her World Class Listener Award, if you don't listen, you'll never get an answer correct. Sorry, got a little cough in here. Let me see if I can find a lozenge. I try to keep them in here, but don't look like I have any at the moment. So if you don't listen, you'll never answer the question because you never heard it. And I don't mean hearing it, because, you know, we all have 2 ears. Most of us don't need a hearing aid. We have to really listen with intent. To hear what it is that the person who's asking the question is trying to glean from you. So I find that a lot of our elected officials, they're not really listening to us. So when I put a question to them, I'm not surprised that they don't answer it, because they're calling in not to listen, not to hear really what you guys have to say. They just want to say what they want to say, right? Like, I just want to call in because, oh my gosh, that lady said she lost respect for me. That's fine. And that's what he wanted to address. And then I started asking questions and we continued the conversation. And I think if he, again, even listened to what it is that she was really conveying, maybe his response to her would have likewise been different. I saw somebody, I don't know who it was earlier, saying that the minister is good like at like PR and whatever, like he thinks that that's it. You know, there's so much more to this. I had a conversation recently with someone, and they were this topic of, you know, when someone is no longer an elected official, they can get and have a talk show, they can get back into media. And I said to them, I said, you know, the interesting thing about that is I've never seen anyone do that successfully. Because normally by the time that they're out of politics, that means that they've been elected out of office. And they've done so because they have made the people unhappy with their performance, things that they've been saying, either them individually or collectively as a government. And so there is an argument to be made. This is simply seen as saying, oh, he's a good salesperson. So there is an argument to be made that you have lost, that person has lost credibility. You, the voting public, the listening public, have lost interest in that person, right? Because politically, they have essentially not lived up to your expectations and they failed. So for them to get on a talk show and a talk program and talk to you after that, y'all are not feeling it. And I can give you numerous examples. I know Elio, you know, did his show Vision 3 or whatever, 3E. That didn't take off. I can't think of anyone, and I stand to be corrected. So if you know of anyone who has, I can't think of a single person who's come out of politics and gone on to have a successful talk show or media presence, because y'all don't want to hear from that person anymore. You're like, they failed us. So why are we now listening to you? Your has-been is what Caymanians would tell you. So it is interesting. And I think that there is a lot to be said for even how they think of themselves and they see themselves, right? Your inability to listen with an intent of answering a question is a failing again on them. Because it means, essentially, we're all ego-driven individuals, self first. Everybody is your self-interest, you and your family trying to get what you can get. But as an MP, you have to lead not with self first, not with ego first. You have to lead with what is in the best interest of my people. Not just saying it, but your actions should demonstrate that that is your concern. Now, I'm not an elected official. I'm not an MP. And there's a lot of times that I will sit here and have discussions that on a personal level are neither here nor there for me. I don't have a child in government school. Let me be very clear. I don't have a child in government school. So I could take a position that I don't care about the failings of our government school because it's not going to directly impact me. But you see, that would be a short-sighted approach. That would be a nonsensical approach because it does. The failure of public education impacts all of us. Whether my child is in the public education system or not, it doesn't matter. This country will come to its hands and knees as a country if we do not fix education. That's why I care. It has nothing to do with my child. She's fortunate, unlike me. She's going to have every benefit in the world when it comes to her education that I didn't have, including parents who are education-centric and focused, who are going to make the necessary sacrifices to make sure she gets the quality of education and environment to support that she needs. That's what I'm telling you. I didn't have any of that. And in spite of those failures, you can still do it. Don't let anybody tell you can't do it. But you've got to want it, and you've got to come up with whatever plan it is to be able to get there. So there is a credibility issue, I think, with a lot of our MPs. We just don't believe them. And, you guys like, yeah, they're a salesperson. They're sweet talkers, this, that, and the next thing. So I think for them to work on their own credibility, that's a matter for them. And they need to start doing so through their actions and less through their words. Later on this week, we're going to be, I'm waiting for some additional evidence to come, hopefully in my hands. But we do have to talk some more about that situation in West Bay with that young child. I do have, again, hopefully additional voice notes and things that will be coming forward. I want to make it very clear. I might be able to have that discussion until tomorrow or Thursday. But to be crystal clear, I don't have a skin in this game. I don't know the mother. I didn't know her. May she rest in peace. I don't know the family members. It seems like she's related to everybody in West Bay. A lot of cousins and whatever. Somebody mentioned, quite a few of you messaged me yesterday to say Katina Anglin was on Radio Cayman talking about me and what was said and blah, blah, blah. I understand she was even speaking to Katina as a cousin. But listen, when this young lady needed help, when she got her cancer diagnosis, I do ask a lot of you cousins who now want to come and support these pastors, these people taking her children, where were you even then? How were you offering your assistance to this young lady with a terminal cancer diagnosis? I just want the right thing to be done, whatever that is, in the best interest of the child. And I do not believe people who have had their PR application turned down and have a monetary interest, a PR interest in having access to the child should be the ones to get her. But we'll talk about it some more, and I hope to have further evidence to be able to put on the table for those of you who claim that these people are such outstanding people and this, that, and the next thing. If the mother didn't want these people with her her child, her wishes should be recognized and respected. I don't care what you guys think about them. All right. Marjorie says, thanks, Gabby, for the reminder. We are watching a couple weather systems as we come into now what is the peak of hurricane season. So yes, please be vigilant. Marjorie says, Sandy, what you're saying here is something important that most potential politicians should think about before they run for election. If they plan to go in and do not do their best, but they need to realize that after their term, they may never get the trust of the people again. Of course, if they have 2 terms, they get pension. Yes, that is, it shouldn't be a lifetime appointment. It shouldn't be a lifetime job. More and more, we need to hold people accountable even before they get into the position. But yes, there is that. And we see more than enough of them crying down the place. I mean, I hate to mention, I won't even mention his name because y'all gonna know who I'm talking about. And that's not the point. But I've actually said I'm not going to talk to him again. But, he sent out something yesterday, day before. Oh, he's 77 years old and the pigmentocracy and the this and that. And because he can't get a job. And, okay, well, you had a restaurant that failed. We can't help you. The people voted you out of office and that's it. You should have done a better job in office. You might have gotten another term. But you guys go in there and you don't have a plan B. You're not saving your money. You're not coming up with a business plan or anything for when you get out of office. That's not on us. And normally, because you're politically exposed, you're a hot potato, right? Private sector is not going to be that keen on hiring you. And Marjorie and everybody else listening, they have no skills to boot. Because in the real world, yakety yakking ain't a skill that's going to get you paid. The MPs that have been able to pivot what they do are actually smart people. Kurt Tibbetts, he's pivoted into a consulting business, right? Mark Scotland has pivoted into a consulting business, but he has a contract with NRA. But that's because that's what Mark used to do for a living. He knows that job. So there's that. They weren't professionals before they got in. So how are they going to have a career afterwards? And once again, they're not doing anything to pivot and help themselves. Alva Saku, he was a professional beforehand. He was in technology. Alva's now gotten his law degree, so he's one of the exceptions. But most of them don't even take advantage of it and say, well, I better get a little something in my head too. Because when politics is done with me, what am I going to do? Marjorie said that should be their incentive to do their best. No, man, they think the people are just going to keep voting them in. Shaka Zulu says it's so typical. Locals putting foreigners' interests ahead of Caymanians in the case of the deceased mother's child. Isn't that something? Isn't that something? Even if that child had to be adopted by other people on this island, other Caymanian families, I can't believe that people would be supportive of, these people who've only been here a couple years and, have y'all believe in whatever through the church that they're definitely the best people to take that poor child. Shocking, really. Wow. I would take the child myself, but God knows y'all would then say, oh yeah, that was Sandy was having this show because she wanted to steal that woman's child. I don't need to steal anybody's child. Trust me. There's so many children all over the place that need a good home. Consider adoption and fostering for those of you who are able to do it. All right, folks. Thank you guys so much. I will try to also get to the topic tomorrow that I briefly mentioned yesterday because someone just said, did you get to it? About Sabrina Turner and Premier Panton. It's just by way of clarification, something that I want to say in relation to it. All right, folks. That's all she wrote. Thank you guys so much for your amazing contributions. And, we're going to continue to hold their foot to the fire. And anyone who, claims that they want to run for public office, but yet they don't want that level of accountability and questions even before they get in, I can tell you that simply is not going to happen. We have expectations now. Somebody said, I'm gonna read this comment because it is interesting, and I've been hearing a lot about Katina. And let me just say this: she needs to be careful. While she's on radio talking about me, the things that I'm hearing in the community about what she's doing, especially with disadvantaged people and NAU applications and so on, she must remember now that she's an attorney at law. And that professional qualification comes with certain obligations and responsibilities. You're not just a crackhead on the corner anymore, honey child. You will lose your entire years of hard work in getting to this place if you do not follow on the right side of the law. Listen to me carefully. Lots of people have your name in their mouth about things that you are doing. And if those things are true, they are against the law. And as people say in this region, time longer than rope, and those things will catch up with you. And you're going to get yourself in trouble. So you better take heed. Worry less about what I'm doing and more about what people in the streets are saying that you're doing. And here's one person. There's somebody else that I didn't even know knew about this. They said that bitch of Katina is her deceased aunt, but I think they meant she couldn't raise a dog, honey child. Katina only wants the money from mental handicapped people that government giving them. She needs to take care of her elderly mother and stop looking to get money from others. She has a business license looking for nursing of old people, and she's cleaning up on this, looking after those people, and Cineco is paying her. Okay. Again, I'm going to say to you, Katina Anglin, that you need to be careful, because in recent times, and I've not yet said anything because my investigations are still ongoing, but in recent times, your name has come up one too many times. Okay? So careful. Careful. You're drawing attention to yourself, and people have been talking, and you will find yourself disbarred, and you will get in a whole pile of trouble. Take heed, because I think you will want to do that. This person says Katina Anglin should get disbarred. She's the one representing the 7 Mile vendors, and there was always issues with her representation. No, sir. Mm-mm. Mm-mm-mm. All right, that's all I'm going to say on that. Take it or leave it, honey child. But I can tell you what, the time is ticking. Beautiful folks, please enjoy the rest of your Tuesday. I'm still trying to get my legal stuff together. Hopefully I can submit today. I'm going to at least send them the draft that I have. There's more that will be added to it. Court on Monday, so I'll take Monday off from the show. And I'll keep you guys updated from there. All right? Okay. Have a beautiful day. Yes? We feeling good? We ready to conquer the world? Let's have a little bit of positivity and say, yes, auntie, yes, honey child, I'm ready to take on the world. With a positive attitude and a little bit of hard work, we can do it. Attitude, attitude, attitude. Shape up, shape up. All right, good folks. That's all she wrote. Have yourselves a beautiful, amazing, fantastic day. Thank you, Dee Dee. I appreciate it. Look in that mirror and tell yourself that you are somebody special and that you can do it. And then after you have your positive affirmations, go out there and start kicking some butt, honey child. Work hard. Behave yourselves, K-Man says, inspiring. Yes. All right. Be good until tomorrow morning.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of The Cold Hard Truth on Bobo 89.1 FM. Cayman's #1 talk show is live weekdays from 7:30 a.m. Never miss an episode again. Watch anytime on CMR's Facebook and YouTube channels for the latest show episodes. Don't forget to follow us online on our social media channels and visit CaymanMarlRoad.com for all the latest news and community happenings.